toast
to this phase.
To the Endgame. Whatever it takes.
And Imagine Dragons.
Whoa, whatever it takes. Yes. I don't know the words that they're gonna play. Avengers combined. I don't know.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast, where we discuss the world of film from a fresh angle. And now your host, Robert Yaniz Jr.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast. This is Rob. Normally on this show, we democratize the film criticism conversation by talking to fans and critics alike, talking about movies that they really love or that really resonate with them on an emotional level. Which is funny because this is a movie that emotionally resonated with both me and my guest. I'm joined again by the lovely Kai Yaniz.
Hello, everybody.
This is another podcast in which Kai and I are talking about a movie over a bottle of wine. So if we tend to get a little loopy towards the end of the conversation, that's probably why. And unlike the last time Kai was on, we talked about Office Space, which was really fun, but actually on format for this show. And this is a special episode where, of course, we are, like the rest of the world, talking about Avengers Endgame. So basically, we talked about it earlier. And
then last night.
No, not the movie. I'm going to say we talked about it earlier, and I asked Kai straight up. I was like, so we're going to try and do a non-spoiler thing and then a spoiler section, right? And Kai's response was,
No, that's not what you asked me.
Oh,
you said,
okay.
Are you going to be able to talk about Avengers Endgame for an hour?
I was more direct.
Without spoilers. I'm like, no, I can't. And I don't think you can either.
I don't think you can either.
I mean, I'll just...
If you say any more than all the Avengers are in it and they fight, something happens, yeah.
If I will just say that the trailer, anything... we can't.
There's nothing...
We can't.
The marketing, and I guess we could talk about that's like the only part of this movie that we could talk about pre-spoilers. The marketing gave away essentially nothing, and we've talked about this before, that Disney has been really good with the Marvel and Star Wars sides of things, of misleading audiences or holding big twists back, big reveals, and Avengers Endgame I think was the epitome of that, because the trailers are completely misleading and paint a picture of a movie that doesn't exist really.
Chris Evans, who you all know as Captain America, he even said that he was surprised that they were able to even pull off a trailer without spoilers because so much happened.
Right. So everything that you see in the trailer is in a completely different context in the movie, and for the most part, except for some silent shots of people reacting to things, the dialogue moments from the trailer are all, fairly early in the movie. That's not a spoiler to say, am I right?
That's right. And we were even talking about this earlier, that Disney must have some of the best editors in the world working for them, because they really know how to put together a trailer. Like, it's so annoying when you go to a movie theater and you're watching the trailers and the trailer gives away everything.
But then by the same token, you're one of those people that when they play it too close to the chest, usually you're like, I have no idea what this is about. So, but this is a franchise that we know what it's Avengers. This thing, some dude, spoilers, snapped his fingers and killed half of everyone.
That was a good snap.
Thank you. I'm glad I got it on mic. And killed half of everyone, and now the Avengers are avenging that. So we were big fans of the marketing and the fact that they did not reveal anything, because this is, as everyone's discovering, we're recording this the Friday that the movie's coming out. We saw it Thursday night. We'll get into our viewing experience in a minute. As everybody's discovering, this is making all the monies this weekend, and it's probably, and I called this a few weeks ago, this is most likely going to be the highest grossing movie of all time very soon.
Which for Disney, it's not hard.
Well, now they bought Fox, so they also have Avatar and Titanic.
Oh, not E.T. Never mind.
Was Titanic also Fox, or was it?
I thought it was
Paramount. It might have been Paramount. So, but they have Avatar is a Disney movie now, technically. So,
and it's a ride.
Well, and isn't Avatar the highest grossing movie worldwide? And then I think Force Awakens is the highest grossing movie in the U.S., in North America at least. So as far as spoiler-free content is concerned, what were you thinking based on the marketing? What were you expecting to see out of this movie? and then we'll get into the actual movie itself.
I think I did suspect that Ant-Man was going to play a bigger part in this, just because of they did do that part in one of the trailers where he rings the doorbell. So it's like, well, he either was saved from the snap because he was in the quantum realm, or he was saved from the snap because he was it was just by happenstance. So
Luck. Just luck, I guess.
yeah, because it is completely random who they pick. But no, I don't know. I mean, the trailer gave away so little.
It's telling that the two trailers...
I didn't read comic books either, so right. I don't, so can only go by speculation on what the comic books even have in them.
It's telling that the two main trailers, the one ends with Ant-Man and the second one ends with Captain Marvel. Because those are the two characters that are basically the X factors of this whole thing that weren't part of the fight last time. I mean, Hawkeye, but he's not going to change the course of the battle. Sorry, Hawkeye. So that, I guess we were expecting them to play a pivotal role, and we knew Thanos would return, and that they were going to do something to either undo the snap or avenge, what Thanos did, take him down or whatever. But yeah, there wasn't a lot revealed. I mean, if you were like me and you read some of the theories / rumors and speculation and all that good stuff, you kind of had ideas of elements that might show up, but there was nothing really confirmed, which is once it got to the point that people were starting to see it, I was like, oh, I'm out, don't want to read any of that. But I said, we talked about it, I kind of wish I hadn't read a lot of the other stuff, because I was like, oh, that rumor was true. Oh, that other rumor was true. Oh, this is exactly kind of what I've been hearing for a year.
But were there some things that you just kind of said yourself as a theory?
Some of them were that.
Yeah.
Some of them were that. Just over the course of where the Hulk ends up, which I don't want to get in. Well, we'll get into spoilers in a minute, and then it's a free-for-all. And certain elements just based on where the other films led us, where Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel, the two films that were released between Infinity War and Endgame. And there was, remember, speculation for the longest time. We had no idea what this movie was even going to be called until the first trailer dropped, a few months ago. It wasn't even usually they put their marker on a movie and they're like, boom, this is the title coming out in 3 years. And you're like, okay, cool. We had no idea what it was even going to be called. And everybody was like, it's going to be Endgame because Doctor Strange is like, we're in the Endgame now. And that's the perfect lead in to what comes next. And is it kind of predictable? Yeah, but is it a cool trailer or title for a culmination of 22 film arc? I think so. I think Highlander used it first, but whatever, I'll take it. So as far as marketing, we kind of didn't know, it was not confirmed where we were going with this, but we had a lot of speculation and a lot of excitement, obviously, what was going to happen next. And I think you and I were both really impressed with the ballsy move that they had in killing half the heroes and ending it on such a downbeat, where when I went to take my mom to see the Infinity War, she was like, that's it? Oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, see you in a year. Find out what happens.
I actually read trivia that they did not want to do that. At first, there was a lot of talks about it.
We'll get into where they may have made an alternate slicing of the story in half. I'm so glad that they didn't try and make this one movie. That would have been a jumbled mess. That would not have worked whatsoever.
Like a 6-hour-long movie.
Or they would have it would have just been a lot of extra stuff cut out, and it would have felt rushed. You wouldn't have had the emotional resonance with what happens or anything like that. So our theater experience was really fun. I just wanted to mention that real fast, because that was probably one of the best cinema going experiences I've had in a long time, possibly ever, because we saw it on Thursday night and it was 6:30.
It's one of the most recent,
one of the first ones.
Yeah, one of the first ones.
Well, what did you think of the experience of seeing this movie before we get into a free for all spoiler palooza here, of seeing this movie on Thursday night with a sold out crowd who was cheering anytime anything recognizable happened?
It was quite an experience, and I'm not always a big clapper in movies. Usually, I do clap, it's at the end, but I was clapping along with everybody else, and cheering because I wanted it was kind of be part of the experience. It kind of reminded me of going to a Rocky Horror Picture Show a little bit.
Kind of.
But
get him, Kev.
Yeah, it was
there's
very,
a lot of that.
Interactive and fun, and it definitely. I feel like if we had gone tonight, on the opening night, It just wouldn't have felt the same. And I think that was one of the reasons why it was so important to me that we went on a Thursday night. You even gave me an option. And I'm like, no, I don't want to wait. I want to do this. Let's go see it. And it's hard for us because as parents of a young child, you have to work out, work arrangements, babysitting arrangements. And this is a 3-hour-long movie. So
hey, parents, can you watch our child so we can go see a 3-hour-long movie about superheroes? It was like a rock concert in that movie theater. So it was a lot of fun to go see it. And I think before we get to the spoiler section, if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out whether or not you should see this movie and maybe want to hear our general reactions to this movie is freaking amazing. Would you, right? One of the best of the MCU, if not the best. Delivers on everything you wanted to, and is a fitting closing chapter for this era and for many of these characters who have, whether people follow it or not, I don't want to get into, but who have confirmed that they're not really planning on coming back to these roles.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I had my coworker this morning ask me, so how was the movie? And I said, it was something, and I am still shook. So definitely, yeah, if you want to go for an amazing movie experience that will probably, I think it's going to stay with me for a little while, go to this.
That being said, let's listen to a little bit of the trailer, the very cryptic trailer for Avengers Endgame. And then when we come back, we will be all spoilers, full steam ahead.
Spoiler palooza.
I keep telling everybody they should move on. Some do, but not us.
Even if there's a small chance, we owe this to everyone who's not in this room to try.
We will. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
That was a little bit of the trailer for Avengers Endgame, directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, all of whom worked on Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, and Avengers: Infinity War. And I think that history with the MCU and with these characters really comes to bear in this film. Marcus and McFeely also wrote the first Avenger, so they've been at every movie that, all the Cap movies and this last pair of franchise enders, kind of. They've been instrumental in all of that from the beginning of the MCU. And I think that, you can feel that. You can feel that, the weight. Like, they understand these characters, having been there through the whole thing, and they somehow find a way to create this really complex tapestry of dozens of heroes. So did you feel like this movie followed through on the conclusion of Infinity War in a good place? I guess the main question I'm asking is, the first 15, 20 minutes really are kind of housekeeping from the last movie. We pick up soon after the snap. Everybody's still like, whoa, what the hell are we supposed to do?
No, you're forgetting one very important part.
It's 3 weeks later.
You forgot one very important part of the movie.
Oh, well.
The beginning. So in the very beginning of the movie, Hawkeye, Clint Barton, is spending time with his family, teaching his daughter how to shoot a bow and arrow. And he goes in the shed to get something and comes out, and his daughter, his 2 sons, and his wife they've vanished. And so that explains what Hawkeye has been up to and how it's impacted him. And that was the opening sequence, and then it goes into the 23 days later.
Right. I had a feeling that would be the opening scene because we knew Hawkeye was going to be Ronin, and he was very upset about things. Probably lost
I
his
didn't
family.
know what the dude's name was until
And-
the trivia. Okay.
Oh, Ronin.
Yeah.
Oh, and then
I was wondering where
I
the
assumed
tattoo
that
came
would
from.
be the opener to segue into the main action. So then we jump to 23 days later, and Tony Stark is lost in space, like the TV show, I guess, hanging out with Nebula, flicking the little footballs, which was funny.
And she looked so intense and like.
Yeah, she's like the most serious character ever. And then we jump into that, and then we follow up with the main Avengers dealing with the aftermath, and then Captain Marvel rescues Tony. We don't need to do a recap really,
No.
but so basically they reunite. Tony Stark is pissed. He's saying, "I warned you guys about this. You didn't want to listen to me. This was Ultron was supposed to be like a defense against this kind of thing and things like that."
He wasn't pissed.
Yeah, he was.
No. Let me finish. He wasn't pissed against them. He was pissed to Steve Rogers, to Captain America. That was who he was taking his anger out.
I mean,
on.
he was pissed with everybody, but specifically
Because Steve
Cap.
Rogers was a leader in some of them not signing the Scobie Accords. They were the two leaders, really. And he feels like Steve Rogers, Captain America, betrayed him and wasn't there for him or
If
the
they'd been
world.
united, this wouldn't have happened and all that other stuff, which honestly is probably true. I mean, as we see later in the movie, the way that things play out, that if they had everyone had been, which is why I got such, okay, I guess let's just get that out in the open. This was, I think you and I were both pretty emotional messes throughout most of this 3 hours for multiple different reasons. Some things were very like heart-wrenching in a sad way. Some things were like cheer moments. But for multiple times, I don't know, somewhere between 6 to 12 times in this movie, yeah, I teared up a couple times and like cried a little bit. But for most of it, I was in that emotional, weird, shaking emotional thing where your like abdomen is like vibrating, and you're like, because what you're watching is like you're like so emotionally invested in what's happening. That was me for many times throughout this movie, but basically the entire third act, I think. You're like, oh my God, this moment is happening. It's, it's that rarely happens. That happened a little bit in The Force Awakens, a couple times when Han Solo's death scene, spoilers, when Rey cut the lightsaber, again, spoilers, and a little bit in Last Jedi. Like Star Wars and Marvel movies seem to be the only ones that really get me that like visceral, like body vibrating, like stress. Basically, I had a headache when we came out of Endgame. What was your emotional reaction to things? And then I answer my question about the 20 minutes thing. Do you think that they cut it in the right place?
Well, I mean, we talked about it a lot, that we knew this was going to be emotionally impactful for us. Like Chris Evans, who's in the movie, even said that watching the full movie, he cried 6 times. The first hour, he said he cried 3. I did not cry 6 times, but it was very emotionally impactful. Like right when you think that, okay, great. It's like, oh no, oh my gosh, oh no. It just over and over again. I wasn't at the point that you were, because I think that you get more connected to movies in general than I do. But, your point is well taken.
I think part of it is that I could have gone to sobbing, but I didn't want to sob in a packed movie theater with strangers on the other side of me. I'm not that kind of person. I only really like full on sob in private when I'm by myself. Like I rarely sob in front of you, right?
Yeah.
And we've been together 8 years. So I think it was me trying to hold back like the complete outpouring of emotion. I think that's what the vibration thing is about. But yeah, it was so the movie opens, the Hawkeye flashback, which I kind of figured might be the case, catching up with everybody, Tony Stark's rescue, they reunite, they hunt down Thanos. Captain Marvel shows up, by the way, which, love her. We had a whole episode, go back and listen to our Captain Marvel review episode that I did with our good friend Carrie Jones about that, and they hunt down Thanos, and they snap. Thanos apparently destroyed the stones, they take Thanos out, and like he goes for the head. Spoilers.
Thor took out Thanos like he
should have last time.
Yeah, like he was mocked for last time by Thanos. And Nebula knew where
he would go,
Thanos
because
yeah.
She had the inside information.
And it was like he was in a very tranquil spot. Like he was like,
well, that's where he was at the end of the
he had
Infinity
his armored suit on a tree branch, and he was like collecting berries or something. just
chilling.
Yeah, it was like kind of very humbling in a way because you very rarely see supervillains in that calm, tranquil state. And no, he wasn't planning his next move because that was his.
Yeah, no more moves.
That was his Endgame. So so Nebula led them to his secret lair.
So what did you think about the fact that they cut the movie at right after the snap, and then he goes to his retirement home and hangs out, and then this movie picks up with like 20 minutes of like should they have cut the movies after they killed Thanos and realized that they can't get him to undo anything?
Even though, as a moviegoer, watching the end of Infinity War, it was really frustrating and like sad and made me angry. I'm actually glad they did it that way because the thing is I think we all wanted a happy ending, but that doesn't always happen, and
that doesn't make for a good end of a part one.
It doesn't make you want to. If that had happened, I was just like, I don't know how much I would have been as invested. I'd be like, oh, okay, all right.
What's gonna happen in the new one? Weird. Okay.
Yeah, instead of with this one, with the end of Infinity War, I think, okay, they're gonna in the next one they're gonna have to find a way to bring everybody back because this is like a terrible ending. Not in a terrible ending, like, oh my god, it's like just it was very well done, but just I don't know, this is terrible because it makes me sad and angry, and I want a happy ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, but I think it's a valid question because I'm sure there were conversations, and this might...
And it did upset people. It did upset other moviegoers, the fact that ending did happen. Like, to the point, like, we have a friend that she said she absolutely hated the Infinity War because she's like, oh, it's just a way of now having another movie just to show them coming back. And it's just, God, what a terrible, terrible ending. Terrible movie. And everybody's allowed to have their own opinion.
And I'm sure, I have a feeling that at some point that was the big conversation behind the scenes, that maybe at one point they were going to cut right there, because then there was randomly in this 3-hour epic, there's a 5 years later thing that happens. And a lot of times that kind of time gap would be between movies, where we would have had Infinity War, the snap happens, they're like, oh shit, they save Iron Man, and then, go down and take out Thanos, and then
That's
that
a
movie
Greek
ends.
pronunciation.
Dano.
Can I say something real fast
Yeah, of
about
course.
the 5-year thing? Yeah, that was funny when, well, not funny, but when they did 5.
Slowly? Yeah, that was great.
It'd be months,
Days?
minutes,
Hours?
and then 5 years. Like, I had a feeling it was gonna be 5 years.
And people were like, what the hell? Like, well, we knew it had to be enough time for Natasha to completely change her hair and grow it out and everything.
You'd think her hair would be longer after 5 years.
I mean, she may have been trimming it. I don't think she's just like let it go like Gandalf style.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. And like, oh, Avengers, fly, you fools. So I think that was the best, most dramatic place to end it. And the first movie, as they've said many times, is Thanos' movie. After Thanos succeeds, that's a cut point. And then from there on, it's the Avengers trying to do their thing. It doesn't work, killing Thanos or reverse. He can't reverse anything because they're gone. The stones are gone. But I think the best way to talk about this movie that is at all kind of structured, we could go characters, routes, or anything like that. But I think the easiest way is there's a pretty clean-cut 3-act structure I was talking to you about earlier.
I think we should do a real-time poll right now.
Real-time poll about how
there's a live podcast happening.
I mean, we could always do a live podcast on, we could always record this on Facebook Live or something and have people, that'd be weird. Though. I'm not used to live. I'm not used to live, obviously. So the easiest way to discuss this movie is the 3-act, the pretty, you can almost break this down into 3 1-hour, serials. You know what I mean? So the first one being the cleanup from Infinity War and everybody, where everybody is 5 years later and everybody being kind of miserable and all that stuff. And then the formation of a new plan. So what did you... I've heard some people think that the first hour is really slow, but I loved all that character stuff. And I think it gave us some of the best acting, the best performances that we've seen from a lot of these actors in a long time.
Kind of would have been interesting if they elaborated more on Black Widow's like antsiness, where she's like, "What's going on with these earthquakes?" It's like she was like trying to find trouble where there wasn't trouble.
She's got red in her ledger. She wants to wipe it out. Like she's like, they screwed up in this major way. So maybe she's like, all right, little by little, we can make up for it by taking care of literally anything else that happens. Like, you know what I mean? It felt like almost a karmic thing, the way that they failed so epically.
But it was only really her and Rhodey. Yeah, Steve Rogers, he was leading a
support group
for being snapped.
And the crazy thing is that this is very, like, basically the first hour is a post-apocalyptic superhero movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's an apocalyptic event. That's literally the premise of that HBO show, The Leftovers. Where half the people just disappear, and they were like ascended into heaven because
After Infinity War?
No, before.
Oh, really?
So it's like the second coming of, I think the whole idea in The Leftovers is like the second coming
the
of
Russo Brothers liked that show.
the second coming of Christ and so some people ascend into, and then other people aren't chosen or whatever. It's
They're
basically
like dusted or something?
they just disappear one day, and then the other people are literally left over. So the first hour of the Avengers is like Avengers, The Leftovers.
That would have been a good title.
There you go. So I liked all that character stuff. Seeing Steve Rogers leading a support group for the survivors. Black Widow kind of trying to hold together a makeshift group of Avengers that includes Okoye, which is really cool. As a huge fan of Black Panther, that was fun.
And that's the thing about like Thanos. Like when you watch the first movie, this is what I was thinking when I was watching the movie. Endgame is like he's clearly a madman, but you can also see his reasoning.
I was gonna say, is he though?
You can see his reasoning because, like, yeah, man, there are so many people and not enough resources, but like Gamora said to him, he loved nothing. So what he did was he wiped out half of humanity, and he couldn't grapple with the fact that people are dealing with the people they've lost, that they never ever got closure with because they don't even know what the hell happened. And like, who knows? Maybe that was top secret. Like maybe these people never even got to know what exactly happened. It was only the Avengers that knew.
People mention Thanos. Like I think even Cap mentions, before Thanos, but like in the support group. So I think somehow that like the Avengers must have made a statement or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I guess. Oh, because it's not Men in Black.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. They know that aliens exist. They came down to New York in 2012,
and they know they're
which we'll get to.
Yeah. So, but because Thanos never really loved anything or anybody. I mean, we could pretend it was Gamora, but it was an
unhealthy love. That was a big controversy when the movie came out, that everybody, that it was saying some kind of an endorsement of abuse or something. I don't know exactly. And I always viewed it as that's what Thanos considered love, was how way he treated Gamora and things like that.
And Nebula.
Nebula got even worse of it than Gamora did. So the whole first hour is just catching up with where everybody's been. Everyone's still stuck in the quantum realm for what was 5 years to us, and like 5 hours to him, he said.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why the idea at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp was to pull him out after 10 seconds. So he would only be gone like a couple hours, not 5 years. If you leave him in there so long, it like expands out, I guess. And then let's see. Hulk is now Professor Hulk, which is a thing in the comics and again, that's another thing that I speculated on was going to happen, because they talked a lot about how Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame were really kind of an arc of Banner and Hulk struggling to find a balance between themselves. And I was like, well, then what you do is combine them. Because I knew that was the thing in the comics. So I was like, I feel like that's probably where they're going to go with it, based on things that I'd read and stuff. And then, oh my God, Thor. Get into the Thor thing. Oh,
so Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans, they're my boys. Captain America is my favorite Avenger, but I also like Thor a lot. And yeah, Thor had a beer belly because he was...
And a half.
Yeah, he was a drunk because he was still dealing with what happened, feeling like the utmost failure and feeling kind of lost. And he was drinking constantly, so he had a really big beer belly. And we saw Korg, and his Meek.
Which everybody was wondering, like, what about Korg? Everybody was worried. Because it was confirmed at some point that Valkyrie was going to be in there. So we got Tessa Thompson again in this movie, which was fun. So yeah, and they established New Asgard. So it was that sequence was a nice follow up to Ragnarok and to everything, because everybody's like, what the hell? What happened to Valkyrie and Korg, Meek, like all the remaining Asgardians? Because remember, when Thanos invaded their ship, he only killed half the people on the ship. So the other people got away or whatever.
Right. Well, but they would have been snapped, or are they not snapped because they're gods?
No, there were probably some of them were still, but there was not many, but there was enough to form a
what
little
is Valkyrie?
village.
She's just a regular person? Or
No,
she kind of godlike?
like
a godless
demigod,
type?
I think.
But he's a demigod.
Yeah, I think
Wait.
she's like in a similar category.
She does have a Pegasus.
Mortal, but she's like she's stronger than everyone, than like a regular human woman. So that way, and then the most impactful one I think was, well, Ant-Man came back and had, what's her name, Catherine Langford as a daughter. It's Cassie at age 5 years. That was great. And the most impactful one was Iron Man.
With no parents.
Yeah, well, they probably got snapped. Poor Bobby Cannavale.
Well, then I guess the Department of Children and Families got snapped too.
Yeah, that's right. At least the main people in charge. Well, I mean, like I said, it's post-apocalyptic, so who knows what kind of mayhem ensued after that. Like,
I want to see that movie.
well, and that's what I like. Like, I think that hour, a lot of people want to bitch about, oh, it's boring, it's slow, whatever. But this cataclysmic event happened at the end of Infinity War, and I think it's important that we see what the outcome is of that. Like, what happens to everybody after that happens before we, work on fixing it. And Iron Man ends up having a daughter, which we have a daughter, so that was everything with all the daughters in this movie. I was like, oh my god!
I saw the tent. There was a tent in a backyard, and he was talking to somebody. I said, I think that's his daughter. And then a cute little girl comes running out, and everyone in the audience,
girl, right?
Yeah, and the audience gasped. And I think even you were like, oh my god!
Yeah, because I didn't know about that. I mean, I could have guessed that maybe something was going to go in that direction, but I didn't know for sure.
So it was nice because at least with that, Tony Stark did have a happy ending. He had his wife Pepper Potts, and he had his daughter. So and they were actually living in a cabin away from civilization.
Yeah, no technology for Tony Stark really, except for he had his little lab, a little room, but it was like running the numbers and things. I think that's the scene where you actually unfortunately succumbed to your bladder and actually had to step out. He was talking to his daughter, and then I told you he was running the models, because what happens is, so we spend the first 20 minutes with where's Thanos, and then Cap in his whole, he's really against profanity, but he was like, let's go get that son of a bitch, which was one of the first of many, like, woo, in the theater. And that's when it goes,
credits, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that was, oh god, I'm so excited to see this movie again this week, guys. That was the first 20 minutes or so, and then it's, I guess, another 20 minutes of where is everyone, and then it's another, maybe, I'm guesstimating, obviously, and then it's another, 15-20 minutes of, oh, Ant-Man emerges, and he's like, quantum realm, time works differently there, and they're like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, he really did kind of save the day, like you were saying today, without Scott Lang, Ant-Man, they wouldn't have even come up with this quantum realm idea. And I'm like,
they didn't know it was a thing.
5 years. 5 years is a long time to not do anything and wait around. Like me and you have been married for 5 years, which I guess. Yeah,
well, now I guess now they're in 2023.
Yeah.
So now the everything in the MCU going forward is set in the future, basically.
Yeah. So, 5 years. I mean, that's a long time. So. Scott Lang, even though people like to call him stupid and an idiot.
Because he's goofy.
Yeah. Which is not mutually exclusive.
He's positively goofy.
Yeah, he really is the one that kind of had them get back on the plan. A new plan.
Right. Yeah, so because everybody, I mean, you gotta, I mean, imagine that they tried to come up with another solution in those 5 years at some point. Like, what if we did that? No, that wouldn't work. What if we did this? Brainstorming. And they're like Captain America even says, I tell everybody that they should move on. Some do, but not us. Because they don't know, because they could have stopped it. They are the only people on the planet that had the power to fix it, to stop it, and couldn't. And I think that weighs on all of them in different ways. Thor gets super fat, and Cap is just trying to hold things together because Cap's got the most moral fortitude, so he's like, he can kind of stand it more than I think most people, and he's using that to try and inspire others and help them stay afloat and deal with it.
It's also he's had loss now twice.
Oh God, I know.
In his life, like he's really, it's amazing how like still so pure and good he is when, in some ways, he's had the most tragic backstory.
And the fact that no one else in these movies is familiar with the quantum realm other than Ant-Man and his friends that all got turned to dust. That after 5 years, they're basically giving themselves over to the fact that this is the inevitable. That like Thanos said, I'm inevitable. Yeah, that this is they can't do anything about it. This is permanent. And then they're provided all of a sudden with this miraculous possible, like shred of a possibility that they can actually change things by going, and we in the second segment, by going back in time and actually having the power to not necessarily undo things but fix things. It's not quite and that's the other thing that we'll get into in a little bit. So then he shows up, and then Cap and Black Widow are like, oh, I don't know, that sounds ridiculous, or whatever. Or Ant-Man's like, you probably think this is stupid or something like that. And Black Widow's like, I get emails from a raccoon. It's like, I'm pretty much open to anything at this point, is her attitude. And then it becomes convincing Tony Stark to get down with it or not. And that's the part that you missed when he realized that it was possible.
Well, but we don't want to do the blow by blow, but Bruce Banner,
we're doing the sweep.
Banner, who's really smart too. He couldn't seem to make it happen because he was like turning Scott Lang into like an old man, a baby, a kid.
Was funny. Yeah, that was good.
And so he just did the formula wrong versus, Tony Stark figures it out like, no, let's do it. And we're going the second half now?
Not yet. Let's wrap up the first.
Okay.
The first.
And Tony Stark
third.
and Steve Rogers, they made up, and the other big interaction in the audience was Tony Stark gave Steve Rogers his shield back, and that was really sweet and heartfelt. Right. They made truce.
Dad made it for him, so
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like you mentioned, the Scott Lang turning into a baby and peeing himself and all that. And that's the other thing this movie gets really right, is that it's really dark and really heavy, and you'll cry a lot and you'll be scared, and there's like a lot of emotional range, but it also still retains that humor that has become, that like levity that has become kind of the staple, I guess, of a lot of the films in the MCU. You have films that are straight out and out comedies, which I consider the Guardians and the Ant-Man movies, and Ragnarok for sure, more like obviously going for laughs, but they maintain that so it doesn't just become, not that there's anything wrong with movies that are just straight up like dour, but it doesn't become like the BVS thing where it's so self-serious that you're like, oh, God, I don't even know. Like, where is like that? That's not realistic.
Exactly.
Either.
That's not life.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's not life. Life is a comedy. Life is a drama. Sure, we know all know that quote, but yeah, I mean, you could be going through like the most tragic moment, and somebody says something and it makes you laugh.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why some of my favorite movies, like I mentioned on the podcast, not on the podcast, but on CrookedTable.com, I did a whole feature about how much I love Jerry Maguire and how much it makes me cry. But that's one of my favorite movies because it captures that, you know, it's romantic, and then it's serious, and then it's sad, and then it makes you, like, it has that balance of tones, a balance of different kinds of moments. And I think that in Endgame maybe does that better than any of these movies so far. So that's the end of the first half. And of course, Tony Stark eventually is like, okay, but I don't want to lose this thing I got going with Pepper, and we got this, you know, this beautiful daughter, Morgan. Just like there was this scene kind of hinting at that in Infinity War. So then we get into the second third of the movie, which is Back to the Future 2 Marvel edition, basically. And as a huge fan,
that's gonna be a title of this podcast, isn't it?
It should be. No, it shouldn't. No, that's a spoiler.
It's true.
Even saying that this movie is heavily inspired by and actually references many times in the dialogue itself, Back to the Future, is a spoiler.
That's true. Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
That's why we couldn't do a spoiler free.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what is the plot of this movie? If I tell you, that's a spoiler. Because the plot of the movie is Avengers, they're gonna avenge. That should be the headline for the title of this episode. Avengers gonna avenge. But yeah, so the second third is all the time travel thing. So they figure out the 6 Infinity Stones were at different points throughout time, obviously, at different places. They've been shuffled around a lot, even in their own history. So they have to kind of watch where they go, who they interact with, things like that. So we travel back in time to the Battle of New York in 2012 when people lost their reaction.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Did you? Were you like, oh my God, that's so cool?
It is good. But I wasn't, but that was one of those times I was talking about where I'm thinking, I wouldn't normally applaud at this, but I'm going to applaud at this. Sure. Let's
You
go.
want to be part of things?
Yeah. Because normally it's like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool.
Well, that's the weird part. They go back to basically 3 movies from the MCU, right?
There's 3 stones that and Black Widow says that she's like, so there
3
were
of them are in New York at one point.
Yeah. What the hell? Just because Marvel Comics is headquartered in New York?
Well,
it started in New York, like everything in New York.
Avengers
and of all
Tower-
the galaxy of the world.
Avengers Tower was in New York.
the
Spider-Man's in New York. Daredevil's in New York. And Daredevil's not even in this movie. X-Men are based in upstate. Like everything, because Marvel Comics was based in New York, most of the Marvel heroes are based in New York.
The space world looks at New York like, oh my God, it's the epicenter
It is.
of the galaxy.
But it is kind of. And it's the epicenter of our country and our culture in a lot of ways. So 3 stones are in New York. So Cap, Iron Man, and who's the other one? It's just somebody else. Cap and Iron Man go to New York.
Hulk.
With Hulk.
No,
not with Hulk.
No. Well, no, Hulk does go to New York because he has to go to the ancient one to get the time stone.
Right.
So he had a different
Right.
mission, but the same.
But the same destination. And then
But he had a different timeline. But he was 2012.
that's what I'm saying. Those
Oh,
are
yeah, that's right.
2012.
That's right.
You're going in the second side mission within
what's going on,
there's
guys?
like 10 missions within missions going on here.
It's Inception.
So they basically travel to the Avengers, the original Avengers movie. They travel to Guardians of the Galaxy. That's Nebula and Rhodey, War Machine. And then, so the 2 of the most beloved movies in the MCU, and then Thor: The Dark World, because that's the only movie where the ether is a thing, I guess. So Thor goes there with Rocket, and is that just Thor and Rocket?
Just Thor and Rocket.
It's okay. It's him and Rabbit, again, heading off on an adventure. So...
I wonder why Korg didn't want to go.
Korg?
Yeah, he could have handled it.
He's
Because
saying
not an
they're playing
adventure.
video games, I guess. He's like... He's still trying to start that revolution, handing out pamphlets. Plus, yeah, these Avengers. There's only so many. That's the other thing that they establish up front. There's only so many Pym particles. So there's only so many. There's enough for 1 round trip each. So where does it? Oh, Ant-Man goes to New York too.
There's also do-overs.
So because there's 3 stones in New York, they get 4 people there. So there's Ant-Man.
Oh,
there
yeah,
too.
right,
Ant-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, and Hulk are all in New York.
It's like me with the coffee the other day. We needed extra hands.
That's right. It's 3 stones, so 4 people. So there's this beautiful, with all 3 of them, we can kind of do one sweeping generalization for all 3 missions, and then we'll focus on the details. For all 3 of them, there's this beautiful blending of archive footage and new shot material from different angles. We get the ending of the Avengers with Loki asking that he'll take that drink now from a different angle, and the aftermath with that. We actually see Thor put the little mask thing on his face, the little mouth, like, which we see him wearing at the end of the Avengers movie before they travel back to Asgard, all that good stuff. Amidst that, there was so many opportunities for cameos. So we've got not only Tom Hiddleston back a little bit there, we got Rene Russo back a little bit there, we got Robert Redford back a little bit there. I'm like I understand some of these other people because you got them under contract or whatever, but I'm pretty sure Robert Redford was a one and done for Winter Soldier.
But we're still not sure about Natalie Portman footage.
I don't know if any of that was new footage. I don't think so. I don't feel like it was. I feel like they just invited her to the premiere as a courtesy because, like, hey, you were in these movies. Your face shows up, so sure, come enjoy the party. We got Crossbones on the. Oh my god. Okay, so I don't know what to talk about because this was honest in a way that if the last act of the movie wasn't so awesome, this would be my most favorite thing ever. But it's like between the second and third is what's my favorite. So what do we want to talk about first?
Well, I mean,
you're like
there was a pretty good fight
Okay.
between Captain America versus Captain America.
Oh, that's a good highlight.
And I got a lot of reaction, obviously.
America's ass?
Yeah. Well, because Captain America 2012 was thinking, oh, Loki, how'd you get out? Got a mischief. And So Captain America is fine, Captain America. But it's also like 2023 Captain America is like so much better than 2012 because he's had
He's
more
matured
time to
a
fight.
lot.
Yeah, and he's had more time to fight and like battle.
Well, the past Cap is still like super idealistic and doesn't really. He hasn't been through Winter Soldier, Civil War, and like he hasn't been like, I don't know, broken. I guess a lot.
Broken.
As much.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
More sophisticated as far as like, you know, worldly and like darker and like a little edgier and shit like that. So yeah, that was, oh god. So I leaned over to you during that scene. I was like, this is Kai's fantasy right here. I got two Caps. So what did you think of that scene? And really the Cap, honestly, the Cap part of the New York thing was the most fun.
Yeah, no, it was I liked it a lot. It was fun. Like I was a little worried about the 2000.
Cap?
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, he might get his ass whooped by himself.
No, past Cap is too much of a Boy Scout. Current Cap would like kick his ass, which he did. And
Well,
he's
he
like, oh,
only
that is
did-
America's ass.
Well, he also tricked him
God.
because he said Bucky's alive.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
that's
yeah,
when
yeah,
it
yeah.
rolled open.
And just threw him off, which
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah, and then when you
But he didn't know that
when you
at that
battle,
point.
you got to be focused.
But
You gotta be
all
ready.
these little things, the little details that reward people like us that are crazy people and have been watching all these movies. I mean, you've seen probably most of them more than once, I think, at some point or another, right? A lot of them you have, not all of them, but like Thor: The Dark World, you saw the one time. But like you've seen the Cap movies all at least a couple times. You've seen the Avengers movies all probably at least a couple times. I've seen all of them probably a few times, including the ones I don't like that much.
I also do have to say that some of these I've also seen more than once because Rob has them playing in the
Yeah,
living room.
okay.
I'm like, all right, I'll
Fair
sit
enough.
and watch
But
it
you've
too.
seen it, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like little details, like the fact that 2012 Cap has no idea that Bucky's alive. The fact that 2012 Cap says, I can do this all day. And current Cap was like, yeah, I've heard that a lot. Because he says that in Civil War and in the first Avenger. So that's another thing
so
that
cute.
Marcus and McFeely brought to the thing. Like all of that. Like the contrasting of how far that character has come. And that's what that fight highlights, is that look how much Cap has grown since he really just basically unthawed at that point.
Avengers: Age of Ultron hadn't found Bucky. Had he found Bucky?
They found Bucky. He knew Bucky was
Or it just
alive.
it just happened. It just happened.
But he was like missing. And in Age of Ultron, there's a quick exchange between Cap and Falcon about like any update on our missing persons case because they're still looking for Bucky.
Okay.
And
So
they
he
don't
was
find
still
him
kind
until
of
Civil
even-
War, really.
He was still kind of a Boy Scout during Age of Ultron.
I think Civil War is what really made him go to the like, nomad persona in the comics, where he's just like on the run.
But
kicking
Winter
ass
Soldier,
and
he's
doing
having
his own thing.
his ass kicked by his best friend of 70 years before.
So we got Robert Redford back as Alexander Pierce in there, who we now know is Hydra. But in that timeline, the current Avengers, that the past time Avengers didn't know that was Hydra. Crossbones and Sitwell show up.
Didn't Ant-Man even say, how'd you not know they were Hydra?
They look like bad guys.
They do, though.
Crossbones and Sitwell.
Yes.
Well,
definitely Crossbones.
Yeah, Frank Grillo is like a B movie like superstar, but I haven't seen him in a lot of things other than these movies. And I thought Crossbones was given kind of very short shrift in the Winter Soldier. I talked about that with Zach Matthews on the Winter Soldier episode, which you should listen to because that was a really fun conversation about one of the highlights of the MCU, and we actually positively predicted what was going to happen with the Shield after this movie. So that's we'll get to that in a little bit. So the Winter Soldier follow up here, and the fact that he was on the elevator with Sitwell and Crossbones, and he was like, "Oh, I'm actually gonna need the spear," because that
brought me back to Winter Soldier again. I'm like, are they gonna
reenact the elevator fight? I think, and that was obviously
like 3 years later.
intentional. Yeah, and that was obviously what you're supposed to be thinking.
Those
at that
elevators
moment,
are scary
because
in that
again,
place.
written and directed by the same people. That's what I'm saying.
You don't know if you're gonna get in a fist fight
With Captain America and lose. So they're all about getting the scepter and the Tesseract, which Tesseract gets more complicated. So Cap gets the scepter by being like trying to convince them, oh, I'm actually going to take over that. And they're like, oh, that's okay, Cap, we got it. And then he leans over and he does the Hail Hydra thing, which made the audience lose their... I feel like most of the audience cheer moments were Cap. Either Cap or Iron Man, but I feel like Cap got more of them.
Well, think about it. Even when Civil War came out, and they did that poll: are you Team Cap or Team Iron Man?
Team Cap.
More people were Team Cap, like me.
Well, I actually think Cap was more on the right side, and has been proven to be more on the right side, and it's in his movie, so you assume that he's right. So Cap is really, like, I think the centerpiece of the New York piece of it. But then Tony Stark is involved, like going incognito as, like, you know, a regular, like a SHIELD agent. That was like, remember, that was really fun. Ant-Man's kind of assisting him, and Ant-Man and Tony Stark. Well, go ahead.
The thing with it, that's okay. I just thought about this. So the thing with Ant-Man, though, and him playing such a big role, he's not an original Avenger.
He is in the comics.
What I mean is he was an original Avenger in these movies. Like, he was more part of the second phase.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's gonna be in other. Basically, I feel like these movies were designed for the original Avengers.
This one was, yeah, for sure.
Not those that were gonna have subsequent movies.
But they needed him for the quantum thing.
But he
to
didn't.
be the
Right.
plot device.
But other than that, though, he doesn't know what to do. He's like, I don't know. I'm not in San Francisco.
He gets
Not
really
in the
big,
quantum
and he gets
realm.
really small.
Yeah, but he doesn't. I mean, I guess Rocket too. Yeah, I guess Rocket too. So they have the two randoms that help.
Nebula.
And Nebula. The three randoms.
2 people from Guardians, 1 from Ant-Man.
Yeah, to just kind of help out.
So Cap is on the Scepter mission, which leads to that awesome Cap versus Cap fight, the Hell Hydra moment, which I loved. And then Tony Stark and Ant-Man are on the Tesseract mission, which does not go very well because Loki, of course, gets away with it.
Right, but it happened because Hulk has his anger.
Okay.
And he busted
No
through the door and like, no stairs.
Which sounded like her daughter.
Yeah, and then like busted down Tony Stark playing the SHIELD agent, and then it messed up like their plan.
Right, which leads to another mission, a sub-mission that we'll get to in a second. And then Bruce Banner basically has a conversation. He goes looking for Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange in 2012 wasn't Sorcerer Supreme yet. So he ends up having a conversation with the Oscar winner Tilda Swinton.
A.K.A. the Ancient One.
So what did you think of... You like Doctor Strange, but it's not one of your favorite movies in the MCU. And I think you're still trying to warm to that character. So hopefully his sequel will do it for you.
I just don't feel like Doctor Strange to me feels like Iron Man, except he's a doctor. But it's also, I don't feel like Doctor Strange has like the same warmth to him.
Sometimes, like,
it's like weird. It's hard. Like,
he's got the detached, like, formality thing going on for him. Whereas Tony Stark will quip, and then what's his face is like more self-serious. It's like, hey, you're protecting your reality, douchebag.
Yeah, he just seems detached from everybody,
right.
And I don't
above it all, self-righteous, if you will.
Yeah, and I don't. He's not endearing to me.
Right. I can see that. I mean, I think Infinity... I like him in I like Doctor Strange. I think the origins... We're now on a tangent again. But the origin story in Doctor Strange is fun. And but I do think it used a little too closely to the Tony Stark model of, I'm an arrogant butthead. And then I'm going to, have suffer some loss and then be like, okay, I'm not a butthead anymore. I'm going to be selfless and all that. But I think Infinity War did a lot of work for me at feeling like... making him an interesting character. Banner has a conversation with Ancient One, who separates Hulk and Banner out so that Mark Ruffalo actually gets a little screen time in this movie past the first 20 minutes. I like that a lot, and I like the fact that the Ancient One... It harkens back to Doctor Strange's whole "this is the only way" thing, and how the Ancient One trusts that Doctor Strange, if he gave it up willingly, knew what he was doing.
I didn't realize she could tell the future so well. Like, wow. She was in 2012 and telling the future for 2000.
She's like, oh, he's not going to be here for another 5 years. You're 5 years too early. I'm like, yeah, she already knew he was destined for this years in advance. And I thought I love that. And I like the fact that.
But why was she not able to tell I read this article, the 25 questions you have after Endgame. How come she was not able to tell that even the snap happened then?
Maybe she can
or that they were coming.
She's dead by that point, so maybe that's part. Maybe she can only see like her own future up to a certain point or something.
She didn't know they were coming to find her.
Because they weren't always going to. They hadn't yet gone back and fixed and changed things, I guess.
Okay.
Unless you go with that time travel logic where they go back but it's always been like they've always gone back. I don't think this movie really prescribes to that. But one of my favorite things about her appearance there was that you see that she was actually fighting the Chitauri and doing her own thing a little bit, whatever she could do from her like balcony, basically. Like, haha, take that. doing her wizarding thing. And I like that puts a little more context on the fact that, yeah, these aliens were invading New York and the Ancient One's there, and she was helping as much as she could, like she was doing her thing. I like how it recontextualizes that. So we should probably wrap up the second half, which is really compressed, and we're breezing past a lot of fun fan servicey moments. But so we have the situation. I guess we should just mention we forgot one of the missions. So we said there were 3 missions. There were technically 4 because one of them is Morag / Vormir. So we have Hawkeye and Black Widow that go to Vormir to meet up with Red Skull, so we get another Red Skull cameo. And I've seen already some people criticizing the fact that, like, how did they not know what they were about to get into? Didn't Nebula tell them and stuff? And that's kind of a legitimate point, I think.
Yeah, I know.
Nebula
I was
knows
really surprised.
that. Well,
he's like, "Oh, she's lying." And
well, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, Nebula knew that Thanos killed Gamora there.
Oh,
but he didn't know that. She didn't know that was he had. Like, he says, "I had to," but what does that mean from a psycho? She didn't know that was the price that he had to pay. So I guess maybe I guess it does kind of fit. Still, she could have thought that he was like, he took this opportunity to be like, I don't need you, for no reason whatsoever. But he actually did it with a purpose, but Nebula didn't know what that purpose was. So that makes sense, I guess. It still kind of fits. So how did you feel about that whole revisiting of Vormir and the basically suicide off between really, Hawkeye and Black Widow?
That mission.
That was crazy talk.
Was not going to go well
for nobody. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's really sad, and obviously spoilers. But
all the spoilers.
Black Widow's the first to die.
The first original Avenger to die.
Yeah, so it's really, they were basically fighting on who was going to take their life, and she really wanted it to be Clint Hawkeye because he did have a family to go back to, and my theory was that I knew it was going to be her trying to do it and going to succeed because she had nothing. She had nothing to live for. I mean, she was sitting in front of the button, but the people. All the time. She had done a lot of bad things. I mean, while he at least had a life, but they loved each other. And he didn't want to do it. And he didn't do it. She did it to herself.
And I like the fact that it was like they established their friendship in the Avengers, but you don't know if it's like a romantic thing or a friendship thing. And I like that ultimately in Age of Ultron it was revealed to be a friendship thing. So you have as far as we know, platonic relationship between a man and a woman, which you don't usually, a lot of times you don't see that. Like a friendship this strong portrayed on screen between a man and a woman. It's usually like, well, they're friends, but then it's going to be When Harry Met Sally stuff, and they're going to end up falling in love. Or what, can a man and a woman
I
really
thought they
be
were going
friends?
to kiss.
Yeah. But then that would have felt like a shitty move for Hawkeye to make. He's got a wife and kids that are supposedly going to come back at some point when they fix things. And she's got a movie coming out, which has heavily been speculated to be a prequel anyway. And he's got a Disney Plus series that we don't know when that's going to be set exactly. I'm assuming after this. Maybe he's supposed to be training Kate Bishop, who in the comics becomes the next Hawkeye. So maybe that'll be the Disney Plus show. And then we won't really necessarily see Jeremy Renner in the movies anymore. And Kate Bishop will show up in one of the other future Marvel movies as Hawkeye. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I agree with you. I think it went the way it was supposed to go, and her whole life, though, since she joined S.H.I.E.L.D., has been making up for the terrible things she did, and she sacrificed her life to save people. So, that's a pretty honorable way to go, I assume. So, yeah, it was sad, but I think ScarJo's been in this thing since 2010 with Iron Man 2, so pretty early, almost as early as Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
So I think it was emotional, but it was satisfying the way that played out, and that's pretty much all that happens there is that whole thing. So we should anything more on Vormir, I guess, or New York for that matter.
No, I think we covered it. We need to
keep
get
moving.
To
There's a lot more. We haven't even gotten the third act yet. So I'm going to save Morag for last because we also have Asgard and the side mission. So the Asgard pretty much they go there the day that Malekith is actually going to kill Frigga. So Thor has gained all this weight. He's lost his way. And he gets this really heartfelt, this really beautiful opportunity to talk to his mom, who sees through right away that you're not my Thor. You're not the Thor of this time.
Well, I mean, I think the beer belly also gives it away too.
Right, but he's wearing big flowing cloths, so I think he was like,
And a hoodie.
Yeah, which is all kind of, I guess, an illusion because the quantum suit just like changes back. Remember?
Oh yeah. So,
Which is cool.
Okay.
But she raised by witches, apparently, she said. So she's like witchcraft, which is where Loki learned what he knows from his mom. So she knows pretty fast that this is not Thor, and Thor gets an opportunity to talk to her and kind of get a little bit of counsel from his late mom, which was really one of the many times I got choked up in this movie.
Yeah, that was really sweet, and I think that it's good that he didn't try to save her because.
Well, he wanted to, and she was like, "No, don't. This is not. You're not here for this. You're not here for me. Do your thing. Get up." And Rocket, meanwhile, sneaks in and I guess extracts the ether from Natalie Portman with the intention, we should say, that they're going to go back and return all these stones after they get them for what they need, and just that way none of
So she had like a stone in her. Like did it
I
turn
know
it?
it's like this red liquid, like whatever thing. It's strange.
That's why I didn't like that movie very much because I didn't understand the ether.
The MacGuffin the ether is the most terrible of the stones, I think, which is why it's unfortunate that to retrieve that they had to go to the only movie that it was really relevant to. So then we moved so that's Asgard. It's pretty much just so Thor can have a conversation with his mom, which is a really great moment. And I'm glad that they got Rene Russo back for that. And then they just move past. That's pretty much that's kind of all that happens on Asgard. They don't really interact with Loki. We see him in his cell for a second, just throwing his little
And there was
thing
applause
up in
for
the air.
that too.
Yeah, because every time Loki shows up, people lose their minds. But they don't really interact with kind of anything else beyond that. So the main one that we need to talk about, the side mission first. So Iron Man and Ant-Man lose the Tesseract because Loki's a trickster and he gets away with it. The Loki that just tried to take over the world, finally he gets that Tesseract back.
Which is a sign he could be back in these other movies.
I guess.
Because now he has a different timeline.
Yeah, like an offshoot or something.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's
because nobody knows what happened to him.
Maybe. So maybe that'll be the Loki Disney Plus series, what Loki was up to right in that
knows,
Loki.
maybe.
Ooh, I'm excited. I'm going to watch all these things. You'll never see me again.
I'm glad it was Kai that came up with this one.
That was a good idea. No, maybe. That's a possibility. I mean, they're going to go back and put the stones back when they got them, but that creates a little weird anomaly at least. So they have to go back. They just be like, all right, where else? We need one more shot. We have only Pym particles to get back home or to do this side mission to get the Tesseract, but also more Pym particles. So they go back to 1972, what is essentially the SSR, scientific reserve, whatever. But it's
I thought you said USSR.
No, the predecessor to what would become S.H.I.E.L.D. And they interact with a young Hank Pym, the de-aged Michael Douglas. Cap gets to stand outside and see Peggy's office and get that moment of longing.
I'm really surprised
about
you didn't
wanting
see him
to
through the blinds. I would have spotted that.
Maybe, but it was just
eyes.
shadowy enough. She wasn't really looking for him. She wasn't expecting anybody to be there. I think she's supposed to. So with 1970, she's probably 50s, in her 50s, I guess, right? Because she's like 20 something in First Avenger, and that's 45.
Right.
So he gets to see Peggy, and they've done a good job with the whole Cap and Peggy thing of threading it through, so you never forget how important that person is to him, even though. The only scene they have post First Avenger, the only scenes they have together are in a Vision in Age of Ultron, no pun intended with Vision, and in when she's old in Winter Soldier.
Civil War?
No, when she's old in Winter Soldier, and he visits her in the hospital, and she's like 80-something, 90 years old, and she like forgets who he is. She's like, "Oh, Steve, you're back!" Like she's clearly suffering from Alzheimer's or some form of dementia, like basically on her deathbed, which is why when Civil War she passes away. So, but every movie with Cap, they remind you, hey, he really loved Peggy, and that he never got that dance. So they like drill that into your head, and we'll get to the third part of this movie in a little bit, which I'm sure will be interesting. So he gets to see her, and they reiterate that yet again, in addition to the fact that, young Cap was like, "Hey, where'd you get that little picture with the compass? That's my girl." was supposed to dance with her, and now she's old and gross. I'm not into it anymore. But the more important part of that side mission is Tony Stark gets to interact with his dad, and we get closure on his other emotional baggage, which is his contentious relationship with his father. And now that Tony Stark has a kid, gets to relate to his dad about when his mom was pregnant with him. And that was, as a dad, I was like, oh my God, this is like maximum daditude going on here. So what were your thoughts of that whole, like, bringing up the two, as you mentioned, the two leads of this whole franchise, the two people who are in the most movies of this whole 22 film saga, and kind of refreshing their emotional wounds for where the movie ends up with the both of them. Go ahead.
I say this term not to be negative to it, because I do think the sentimentality was really sweet and a good form of closure for our two heroes, but I feel like they were both scenes were emotionally manipulative because
maybe yeah a lot
what
of
a coincidence.
Emotionally...
Captain America happens to go in the right in front of the same door as Peggy, and Iron Man, Tony Stark ends up seeing the only person in the room was his dad.
It's also
but I understand. I mean, it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's like
storytelling.
I think that's very sweet, and that's good that they got to have that moment, because it definitely, with what happens in the third act, that is good closure for Tony Stark, and I guess that is a predecessor to what happened in the third act with Captain America. But it's still kind of a ploy to manipulate your emotions.
As a counterpoint to that, yes, but one, that's storytelling, and two, the having, as you mentioned earlier, re-listened to the Infinity War commentary. The Russos are very cognizant of treating each of these movies as self-contained as they can. I mean, this one is really hard to do, because if you haven't seen any of these other movies, you'll get it, but not really. You won't feel it the same way. For the same reason that they reintroduced the Infinity Stones at the beginning of Infinity War.
It would be really cool, but sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is if they had the original Howard Stark in this, Dominic
Cooper?
Yeah.
Well, but at this this period, he would have been played by, I think, John Slattery. Is more age appropriate for what they were looking for.
I know, but I'm just saying,
because Dominic Cooper,
him?
he plays him in the 40s, and this was before that they were doing the technology, the aging and de-aging thing. They established Dominic Cooper in Captain America: The First Avenger, and they established John Slattery in Iron Man 2 before that. So that's the only example in which two actors play the same character at different ages. Everyone else, Haley Atwell has played Agent Carter, Peggy Carter, at 20-something in First Avenger and at 90-something. And that's the only example Howard Stark is of that happening. Because they established both those actors early on. And they're like, well, we don't want to recast. We already did that.
I know, poor guy, though. Poor actors probably like, well, damn, I wanted to be part of this Marvel's.
Dominic Cooper?
Yeah,
he was on Agent Carter, the show.
I guess.
Which now I kind of want to watch with you, because Agent Carter's great. And I'm sure it'll be on Disney Plus, and
It is, I'm sure.
I've never finished the second season, so there's only 2 seasons. We'll probably watch that. But Dominic Cooper's there. And before we get past that, we should mention, too, that the actor whose name I'm totally blanking on, I'm going to look it up now.
What character was it? I might remember.
The Jarvis character.
Oh, I don't know.
So Jarvis was in there. James Darcy, who remember, was in Let's Be Cops. He was the bad guy in Let's Be Cops.
Not
And then I saw
that
him.
guy?
That's him playing Jarvis.
That guy was so scary.
I know he was scary. He's a great actor. That's what I'm saying. And a random movie like Let's Be Cops, which is fun, but not super impressive or anything, but a fun movie nonetheless. The villain in that, but he's super British, first of all, which he's not in Let's Be Cops. And in this movie, he's reprising. This is the first time we've ever seen a Marvel TV person in, other than Coulson, who started in the movies, a character that was played originally on Marvel TV in a Marvel movie. This is the first time that's ever happened. And it was him playing Jarvis, who ends up being the inspiration for Tony Stark to name his AI Jarvis later on in life. So you get a little cameo from him, which I obviously hadn't finished Agent Carter, but as a fan of that show, it was really fun for me. Like, oh my God, Jarvis, what the fudge? So I love that. And, okay, so I was saying, as the Russo brothers, they're very much wanting to keep everything as self-contained as possible. So I think it was important for them since they were going to end the journeys of Cap and Iron Man in this movie, we'll get to how in a second. It was very important to them that they reiterate those, they bring Howard Stark back into it. They bring the bond, like Tony Stark's relationship to being a father and his own father full circle, because of the way that the movie literally ends with Tony Stark. His last line of dialogue is via recorded message to his daughter. And Cap's last scene is with Peggy. So I think that it was very important for them to remind people that was happening, or for people that have only maybe seen some of the movies and only gotten the gist to really bring that home. But yeah, I mean, to your point, of course, they only hey, I randomly run into you. But that happened in Back to the Future all the time, where, they're like, oh, it's you. Oh, this crazy weather we're having, and things like that. You know what I mean? That happened a lot. So as a fan of time travel stuff, I'll allow it, because that's the kind of stuff you only get from time travel movies. So the last mission, which is saved for last on purpose because it perfectly transitions into the third act, the Morag thing. So we get that great moment with Quill singing "Come and Get Your Love," looking like a doofus, where
I
go ahead.
Interrupt you.
Yes,
I could
please.
totally tell that was a reshoot, because I don't feel like Chris Pratt really acted with as much passion and as energy as he did in the first Guardians.
5 years ago.
You could tell there was I could tell there was.
I'm sure some of that was
a little bit off.
I'm sure some of that was archive footage too, though.
Maybe some of it, but this one, I don't know. It was subtle, but I noticed it.
He's 5 years older, Kai. Time takes its toll.
And he's a big star now.
Yeah. He's getting that sweet, sweet Jurassic World money. So we get that great moment in the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's all about the music, and it opens with Quill singing it doesn't open with, but that's like the credit sequence. Singing along with "Come and Get Your Love" on his headphones, and we're all in it because this music is playing into the movie too, so it's it's diegetic in that it's in the movie, but it's also like we're hearing it, and you get that great outside point of view where Rhodey and Nebula are watching him dance around to the music with his headphones in, and then Rhodes says that thing that you pointed out earlier. Go ahead.
He's an idiot, right?
So he's an idiot.
And and
you took issue with the fact that they made Star-Lord and Ant-Man out to be kind of idiots, even though Star-Lord is kind of a man-child, and he's good at certain combat things and with his guns, but other than that, he's not really a strategic thinker or anything.
Yeah, but it's and I guess my whole point with why I even brought it up is there was absolutely no purpose to him saying that. It didn't. It was funny. It didn't add anything to the plot.
Have you ever seen those videos online where they take the Happy video by Pharrell Williams and they take out the music and then then they put sound effects over it instead, and then it's like. And it makes all these people look like insane people. I think it was kind of that type of humor, where if you take the music out and you're not enveloped in the song the way that Star-Lord is, it just looks like a crazy person dancing around on a planet where you're supposed to be pulling a heist. I mean, I understand the Ant-Man thing is a little bit of the butt of the joke because he's Paul Rudd and he's got a goofy sensibility about him, but Star-Lord is kind of an idiot. People love him or whatever, but he hasn't matured past the age of 10 or 12 or wherever he was when he got taken mentally. So I like that joke. I thought it was funny. So they go in there and Nebula gets the stone, but then there's tell me how stressed out you were during this and why.
Okay, so we were talking earlier about these emotional moments. So Nebula 2014 in Morag or something.
Who's evil and has come a long way. That's the other thing. Like Captain America, we get two Nebula, so it perfectly contrasts how far she has come since her first appearance in these movies too. Go ahead. Sorry. I interrupted your interruption probably.
All of a sudden, so bad Nebula, Nebula from 2014 is talking to Thanos and Gamora, and all of a sudden her eye goes wonky and starts showing Tony Stark and the other Avengers talking about the stones, and Thanos is like, what is that? So Nebula in 2023 gives away the entire plan on accident.
Yeah, not on purpose.
Yeah, and that sets things in motion for things to go very badly. And it was very stressful because.
I wish.
And then so Thanos.
Go ahead.
So that just brings us into Act 3, and Thanos is like, bring me the duplicate, bring me the other one, because Thanos is clearly, he's very intelligent, and he's like, yeah, there's I guess 2 of them, so bring me the other one, and he gets, so the new one, or Nebula from 2023, is able to reenact exactly what happened in the first part of the movie. Well, I guess the whole Infinity War and the other part of the movie, and
So Thanos
So
figures
it's on.
out they're not trying to stop me from doing something. They're trying to fix something that I already did. Like, I reached my destiny. This has been my life's goal, is to get that freaking glove and snap my fingers. And I like the fact that
he didn't seem very moved when he got his head cut off. He's like, oh.
He's like, whatever. It's my destiny. I achieved what I needed to. So he's totally fine with that. He's like, I died. That's
I
cool.
would be
whatever.
like, I'd be very traumatized.
He's like, hey, my head. I need that. That's supposed to be on my neck. But whenever you have like duplicate people, you always have the good person in the bad. You see that cliche in like
I wanna
every
see
show.
the bad and the bad.
We're like, oh, which one is which? That kind of thing. Like which the loved one of the duplicate person, like with a gun on them. Like, how do I know which one to shoot? It was like
Isn't
a little
that
bit of
Austin
that.
Powers?
Oh, Austin Powers, Family Guy did a play on it. Like everything that has duplicate things has that.
I want to see the
Muppets
bad.
even
I
did
see
that.
the bad versus more bad. That's the movie I want to see.
Well, Nebula's still not. She's good, but she's not good. She's still a little weird and a little dark.
We all are, Rob. We all are.
Some more than most.
Yes.
So then you get the showdown between Gamora and the 2 Nebulas, where the good Nebula is appealing to, hey, I know that you're a lot better of a person than you're pretending to be right now, because she's like on the verge of already rebelling against Thanos at that point, leading into the original Guardians. And of course we get more Gamora, which I love Zoe Saldana, and I missed her in a lot of this movie up to that point, and I thought she was one of the best parts of Infinity War. So you get the Nebula taking over the other Nebula's place, and the good Nebula kills the bad Nebula. Now we're getting to the third act, but so the whole thing ends up where we have Nebula infiltrating the group and coming back to, like, the good Nebula actually comes back to the future, right?
The bad Nebula and good Nebula both come. No. First, the bad Nebula comes back because she's not just driven by anger and actually was useful and had pimp particles. And the good Nebula had pimp particles in her head
for her retreat back. And I think you even mentioned at one point.
How the hell she even knew what that was. Oh, because they went through the whole plan and
they watched all the previous movies.
So they just basically stood around for like 20 minutes.
I guess, yeah. How much did these movies do for Nebula too? These 2 movies did a lot of work for Nebula. Like, I liked her. She was fine in the first Guardians, and I liked her a lot in the second one. But I feel like she's been hugely pivotal in these 2 movies. I love Karen Gillan in these movies. I think she was a lot of fun in this role, and I like that they actually gave Nebula a pivotal part in this story. And that they left it open for her to return. I mean, she doesn't die in this. Like, the good Nebula doesn't die in this. So anyway, the Nebula switchover happens, and then shit ensues, and Thanos actually ends up coming. The bad Nebula opens a portal for Thanos to come with past Gamora, with good Nebula, and the Black Order and all his army and crap, from the path from 2014 to our time, to 2023, I guess. And he comes for the stones that the Avengers have collected, and he blows the shit out of the Avengers headquarters, and everything collapses, and we're like, oh my god!
And then that works out so well for him because he's like, oh great,
thank you for getting all my work, guys.
Yeah,
I spent the whole last movie getting everything.
You're my real children of Thanos.
Yeah, sort of.
Appreciate it.
So as I said, the first act is the Leftovers Avengers edition. The second act is time travel shenanigans with the Avengers, and the third act is Thanos coming to our time to reclaim the Infinity Gauntlet. And so let's see if I remember correctly. So Black Widow's sacrificed herself. They got all the stones. They come back. Blah blah blah.
And they will grieve her too.
Yeah, they grieve her, which of course is important. And then. Past Nebula uses. Now I'm on the Wikipedia because I want to make sure we hit everything. Back in the present, Banner and Thor can rebuild the Infinity Gauntlet's rebuilt, and then
it's rebuilt, isn't it? It's like it's the Iron Man rebuild.
Hulk snaps Hulk snaps because he's like, I'm the only one that's strong enough to do this.
Well, Thor was, but you didn't mention that Thor was fighting to do it. He's like,
He
I'll do
was.
it. I'm a god.
Well,
I should do
he
it.
also,
And he wanted to
but his
redeem
mind
himself.
is not in the right place.
Right? He wanted to redeem himself.
Doing it out from the wrong. He's not thinking clearly and things. I think that was a. Look, who knows what
Like,
he's
let
gonna,
me take your keys, man. You
and-
can't drive.
Exactly. And this was the thing that I think you needed to clarify. You're like, wait a minute, he just snapped his fingers. Did he just kill everybody? I'm like, it's whatever you have in your mind, whatever your will is. You're like, I want this to happen. I want a bazillion dollars right here on this table. Snap, and it appears.
What does that have to do with? Because it all has to do with your soul.
It's with what you want to happen when you snap your fingers. It's like you're genie
Like a
and you
birthday
wish.
cake. Yeah.
Kinda, sort of, yeah, a little bit.
Oh.
A little bit like that. So it's basically like that. So when
Why
the Hulk,
does he need the other? Why do they need the other stones? Like the soul stone sounds like it's the shit.
no,
That's
you
what
need,
they
but
need.
but the idea, and I listen to the Infinity War commentary, so I know this. The idea is for something as far-reaching and as epic in scope as all the people in the universe. You need all 6 stones. It's like you can't build this giant Lego thing unless you have all the pieces. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. You can build part of it, and like here's a tower or whatever. I don't know why I thought of Lego. Our child has Legos all the time, so she was kind of, huh?
One of the other things I heard about analogies I've heard is vending machines.
What does that have to do
You
with
can't put if you want a Coke and the Coke is $1, which I don't think they're $1 anymore. You can't just put 75 cents in and think you're going to get it.
Yeah,
You
now
got to
it's
put
like,
the full thing.
How much is it now for like a can or a bottle of soda in the machine?
This is a legitimate question.
When we were
audience.
kids, it was like 50 cents. And now it's probably like $2 or something.
Oh, and they even accept credit cards now too.
That's crazy.
But yeah, you have to put
Kids
in
don't
your
know how
full
well you have
100
it.
You have to put in 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, anyway. Hulk gets the
Hey,
gauntlet.
that was deep.
Hulk gets the gauntlet and snaps and supposedly brings everybody back. But the only way we know is because Hawkeye's phone starts ringing and it's Linda Cardellini being like, Jinkies.
That was a great picture of her too. I'm like,
Yeah,
man,
that was
I
a
wish
great
my
picture.
picture looked like that.
You have a little bit of a Linda
Not like
Cardellini
that.
thing.
She's like,
You have a little Linda Cardellini thing going on.
no,
I guess.
she like had her hand behind her head.
She was in A Simple Favor too. But, you know, Thanos is coming, and that's when he blows up Avengers headquarters, HQ, and it becomes a big showdown between Cap and Thor and Iron Man. And then, I think this is when it happens, right?
Yes, I have to say
And
it.
then the biggest freaking thing happens, by far the biggest cheer in a movie filled with many cheers. Does Thor throw it? Or does it just appear? How does it? I don't even remember how or where it comes from.
well-
oh no, Thor takes
Okay,
the item
let
in question.
Let me say
I'm not
it.
gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. Thor takes the item in question from Asgard to test his
Worthy.
metal. I wasn't gonna use the word worthiness because that was too obvious. And brings it back with him, and then does something, and then go.
So the biggest reaction was the 3 of them were all working together.
God, I'm so excited to see this again.
Defeat Thanos, and like Captain America welded Mjolnir, the hammer. Like he caught it, and then
Wielded, not welded. He didn't make a new one. Welded means he like built it out of a mold, like
or a star.
Itri,
A star,
dwarf.
like
yeah, I was gonna say like the dwarf.
He wielded it, so he caught.
He's
Mjolnir.
worthy, bitches.
Yeah, he caught.
And then
Mjolnir,
Thor has a
and then
line.
he like lunged. It was sort of like wheeling around. It was amazing.
And Thor has a line that I didn't hear because people were cheering. Something like I knew he was worthy or something like that.
I heard it.
Oh, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Because there was that moment, again, fan service like a mother fudge, where in Age of Ultron, he like they're like, oh, you're not worthy or whatever. And then Captain America goes for it and it like moves a half, like it budges slightly. And Thor's like, oh crap. And then Cap's like, haha, never mind, whatever. And he's like, ha 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 ha, you couldn't move it. Oh. So this is the payoff to that moment from Age of
And
Ultron.
Thor this time was happy about it.
Well, yeah, he had Stormbreaker at that point too. So he had his weapon and Cap was wielding the shield. Is this when that happens or is it a little later? Anyway, it doesn't matter. At some point in this epic hour-long confrontation, which I think it is around there, Cap is wielding the shield and Mjolnir. That's a hard word to say, so I took it a couple times.
I like it when Kat
Meow, meow.
Jennings goes meow meow.
So the shield and Meow Meow and is bam, 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 back and forth with Thanos. So
and thunder.
I like
And thunder.
Thunder. It's another Imagine Dragons, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Oh God. So and I like that all three of the main heroes, they're the three pillars who have had each of their trilogies in this movie. The three heroes that we could basically say goodbye to at this point, if we wanted to. All of them, the three of them walk out to Thanos. Captain America, Iron Man, and Fat Thor all walk out there to fight Thanos, to face him. And that's right before the moment happens that you mentioned.
Yeah, and actually it did happen because what was going on was
his shield gets jacked up.
Thanos was using Stormbreaker to basically go into Thor's chest. He was holding him down and it was going into him, and there was like blood, and all of a sudden Captain America wields
Did I give you a complex about wields? No, sorry.
Wields meow meow. And then he's like basically Captain America kind of becomes the last superhero standing, because I think Iron Man is down first, and then second becomes Thor, and Captain America's next. And then with all of the shenanigans that are going on, and Thanos is just sheer power, he manages to, I guess he did break the shield with meow meow.
No, I don't know. He doesn't break it with the thing. He breaks it with his sword or something.
Oh yeah, that scary sword.
That scary like double-sided sword. It's like a Darth Maul style double-sided weapon.
And like Captain America is like beat up really bad. His shield is broken. He was very astonished because this shield is is that strong. When he's like, bear in mind, guys, we've only seen this movie once. If it had been like Office Space or something that we'd seen more, we maybe would be a little more well versed. Is that when he's like, oh, burn it all down, and says to his Ebony Maw or whoever, and he's like, oh, but what about our troops? He's like, I don't care, blow this mother up. Oh no!
That's when my girl shows up.
Way later.
Not yet. So what happens?
That was way later.
So
I can't even believe.
So wait, what am I missing here? No, the portal thing didn't happen yet. Oh wait,
it did.
Oh, okay. So the main three,
guys.
Hawkeye is lost down there, getting the gauntlet.
And
he's
got it. There's like hell dogs.
Hulk is like under there.
Hell dogs are going after him or something.
Yeah, those were they were in Infinity War.
What were those things again?
The Outriders, I think.
Was that? Yeah, right.
From Infinity War, from Wakanda battle.
Right.
So this is not even really a review anymore. This is just us like geeking out about this whole thing. So Hulk and Ant-Man are somewhere in the rubble. Nebula's on the ship being like, trying to, come on, good Gamora, let's do this. We can do it. Good Gamora. Gamora's always good. God, Gamora. I love Gamora so much.
Because Gamora was like, what happened with us?
And then we become sisters. And oh my God, I'm going to cry.
And then Gamora's in. She's in the game.
I'm so excited. The more we're talking about this, the more I'm super psyched to see this again. Which, by the time you're listening to this, I will have seen it the second time. And I will be so happy to do so. So, I'm trying to account for all our event. Black Widow's dead. Spoilers. And the three main guys go over there. So, the three main people are trying to hold it down as much as they can. And then a bunch of portals open up.
Well, first,
who shows?
Cap. The call.
Cap is like about to like. All right, we're gonna do what we can, whatever. And then Cap hears in his helmet. He's like, Cap, it's Sam. Blah blah blah. Whatever. And
I'm on your left.
I'm on your left. Oh my God. On your left, and people lost their shit again for like the 20th time. Guys, this is not the wine talking. This is like the best movie ever made.
And then the portals open.
So God, which is a callback to Winter Soldier, the on your left thing, obviously, for people that are listening to this and for some reason don't know. So awesome. So, like, you can call this Marvel fan service the movie. I don't care, but everything is a callback to other things, and it is so beautiful. And then it's a sea of portals. The track on the score, which I've been listening to today, is literally called Portals. And all these portals start opening up, and Black Panther shows up, Scarlet Witch shows up with Shuri and Okoye. Scarlet Witch shows up, Bucky shows up, with Falcon shows up. I'm saving one person for last here. The Guardians, Drax and Star-Lord and Groot all show up. I'm trying to think who else went poof in the snap. All the people that went poof in the
Wasp shows
Doctor
up.
Strange shows up.
Wasp
shows up. Basically, any hero we've ever met in these movies, I'm saving one person. Do you know who I'm saving?
I don't know yet.
I'm saving this person for last.
No, that's
Okay,
not
go,
how it was.
go.
Pepper Potts with a
Pepper-
Iron Man mask on her head,
Pepper
and
Potts
Outfit shows up.
as Rescue is what her alter ego in the comic. Pepper Potts shows up to save Iron Man, and then of course, everybody's favorite, our daughter's favorite, the one of the few superheroes she knows by name, Spider-Man shows up, and it's like, oh hey, Mr. Stark. He's like, oh, were you there? Was it weird? Did this happen? I was all dusty, and Doctor Strange was there, and then he's like, oh, 5 years have passed, and they need our help, and Tony Stark just gives him the biggest, most authentic and heartwarming hug that I've ever seen on screen. That is such a beautiful payoff of that, such a wonderful inverse of the moment where it's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to go, the thing from Infinity War. Oh, so it's perfect. So many moments in this movie are perfect, and bless you, Russo Brothers, for making this thing.
Oh, and Valkyrie shows up.
Valkyrie with her Pegasus, all
and
that.
And her chicks, right?
Pretty
Weren't
much
all of her ladies there with her?
I guess, probably.
And it was an army of like
Wizards
everybody.
and Wakandans and all the heroes. And then Thanos is like, all right, blow this shit away. Take them all out. Right? They're fighting, and then Thanos eventually, at some point, Thanos is like, oh, hold on.
Oh, right, because
I gotta mention this other moment.
Right, well,
so
that happened before.
Hawkeye shows up with the gauntlet, and Black Panther, which I pointed this out to you last night after we watched the movie, and then Black Panther's like, Clint, give it to me, which I love. But
you missed a.
Oh, sorry.
We missed a big part before the portal.
Okay,
so
go, and then I'll get back to that.
Actually does because people already saw this, but before the portals, Thanos even says like it was never personal. But I'm going to really enjoy doing this. And then he calls his army, and his army comes up from the sky. And then that's when they clearly, all those people can defeat Thanos, but not all those, but he needs more people. They need more people to defeat Thanos and his army.
Don't be surprised in like August or whatever when this comes out on Blu-ray, I'm absolutely going to clear my schedule and spend 5 hours watching both of these back to back. Because this whole like... Maybe individually, Infinity War and or Endgame might not be the best superhero movie ever made, but I think collectively this 2-part story is probably, and I'm putting this on Mike, so it's probably the best superhero story that we've ever seen on film. Better than The Dark Knight, better than anything Marvel or DC or anybody has done. I feel like collectively this 2-part thing. It's the most impressive as far as scope, as far as storytelling, as far as character and plot thread management that I've ever seen in this kind of blockbuster filmmaking.
Yeah, and you did compare it to Return of the King.
It is. It feels like Return of the King. It's the end of this story in the way that was the end of that epic story. A lot of people coming together. So but that's where I'm getting. That's perfect. Thank you. Perfect segue. So Hawkeye shows up, and Black Panther's like, Clint, give it to me, the Infinity Gauntlet. So you get Black Panther, who, as you've listened to this podcast, is like one of my favorite people in the MCU. Probably until now, my favorite movie in the MCU. Running around with the Infinity Gauntlet through this crowd of like crazy battle shit. And what I love about that moment is that it references in Civil War when Clint introduces himself to T'Challa. I almost said Wakanda. The king of Wakanda, T'Challa. And he says, I'm Clint, by the way. And then T'Challa's like, I don't care. And the implication in this moment is that had all these heroes been connected, been on the same page, worked through their differences, and been united against this evil from the start, Thanos would have never stood a chance. In that way, it feels like Return of the King, where you have hobbits and wizards and rangers and elves and dwarves and men and everybody teaming up against this one force that's trying to destroy all of them. It felt very much like that thematically. And then, and someone who you go online, you read the news, everything is very divisive and everybody's at each other's throats. Whereas a movie with a female superhero comes out and people are like at odds about it. I'm like, really, dudes? It's a girl who happens to be a superhero. It's a woman who happens to be a superhero. Who cares? Whatever. Let it be. Why are we fighting about this, let alone the millions is a little exaggerated, but the many, many actual issues that we have to face in this world, and politically and socially, and everything's so divided. If all these superpowered, special people could look past all that garbage and come together, they're unstoppable. And that was the message, and that's part of why I was doing that weird vibrating thing in the movie theater. Because it's if you look at the metaphor of that, it being like, if we all, Americans, Europeans, Asians, Australians, Antarcticans...
Don't forget about Canadians.
Well, I guess I meant North America. North Americans, South Americans, Africans. If we all came together, black, white, gay, straight, bi, trans, woman, man, whatever. Look, there's nothing we can't accomplish. We could save the planet. We could change our future. And that was probably part of why, that's everything in sci-fi, fantasy, horror is all metaphors for other things. And that was the big metaphor that I was getting from this movie. It's like, look, you spent 22 movies meeting all these characters. Look at what happens when they're all combined, all their powers put together. This one asshole that's trying to bring it all down, F this guy. He has no chance when we all stand as one. The problem is that we're all divided constantly over petty bullshit. And that's the issue. And that's why I think that one, even that whole sequence, but especially I think it's emblem. I think that one moment with Hawkeye and Black Panther was emblematic of that larger point, that they're now on the same page. Whereas before he's like, yeah, I don't care know who you are. I have my mission and I'm on my own path. Everybody's on the same path here. Everybody's on the same page, and everybody knows that take down Thanos is the only thing that matters. Go ahead.
Well, and it's interesting because actually, even in the beginning of the movie, Captain Marvel was on her own mission.
Right.
And she got, called out
for
that by Rhodey.
Yeah, she did.
And then she became
that's the part we're getting to. So there's this huge battle going on. Thanos is not having all this struggle back and forth. See, I'm getting the weird vibrating thing a little bit now as I'm talking about it. So all this stuff is happening. All the dead people are back. It's 5 years later, so I don't know how Peter Parker's going to figure that out. But Peter Parker gets his hands on the gauntlet, and Thanos is like, burn them all down. Do your and Peter Parker gets into his kill mode, instant kill. Which remember, there's a moment in Spider-Man: Homecoming where she's like, Karen is like, oh, do you want me to pick one for you? And she's like, sure, go for it. And he's like, she's like, instant kill mode activated. He's like, whoa, take it down. And in this movie, he's like, activate instant kill mode. And he's like, which was amazing. Callback again. Go ahead.
So did this happen before or after
Carol?
the other scene? That was awesome. But, I mean, as a woman,
The whole
I thought
thing.
it was really...
It happened after because Carol's a part of that. So, Spider-Man, everybody's doing their thing, and then Thanos. I know I've mentioned that like 4 times, but there's a lot to say. This is again, we're only 24 hours. We're little over 24 hours ago as of this recording. We were still watching this movie.
Well, can I say it part?
Oh man, okay. So Thanos has burned him down, and then go.
I feel like I have a close connection to this. So
Sure, go for it.
well, you've also been talking about it.
Well, yeah, go. So I got really passionate about it.
Yeah. So Spider-Man, he's gonna go. He's got that gauntlet. He needs to go deliver it to the quantum truck. And and then he's like, what are we gonna be okay? And then all the badass
No, you're skipping something.
I must be.
You skipped what I was talking. Let me say my thing first. So then Thanos is like, burn them all down, and then Ebony Maw or whoever is like, oh, what about our troops? Is like, F that, I don't care. You got to take all these guys out. I need that gauntlet. I need those stones so I can snap my fingers again and do this all over again. And then someone comes out of the sky and tears apart his entire ship. And in all this craziness, even though I just saw it like 2 months ago, I completely forgot that Captain Marvel was not part of this yet. And Captain Marvel disposes of his whole freaking ship. You don't forgot this?
Yes, but I thought that
we didn't say that yet, though. That's what I'm saying.
I thought that was after.
No, that was her arrival in the scene.
Oh.
You hadn't seen, the last time you saw Captain Marvel was on the call with Black Widow.
Do you know what I'm about to say?
Yes, you're going to say about the lady thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just said that. I got it.
You can edit that out.
No. I'm not going to edit any of this. This is all good now. So the last time we saw Captain Marvel was on the call with Black Widow. She's like, I got some stuff going on in this other thing. I'm protecting the galaxy. You guys got Earth, so you might not see me for a while. And she's got her short hair, which still digging Brie Larson with the short hair. I don't know. I like Captain Marvel. I like Brie Larson, but I kind of like Captain Marvel's swagger. I talked about this when I did the podcast with Carrie. Like, not only is she more powerful, she's got that like confidence, and that's kind of attractive. So I don't know. My Brie Larson thing is heating up here, guys. So that's the last time we saw her in the movie, until she shows up just in the nick of time because it's a movie, of course. And then you're going to be like, oh, manipulation, emotions. I'm like, yeah, of course, but I don't care. This is so awesome. When this is the emotion you give me, I'll take it. So she shows up, and there Thanos flies right through Thanos' ship, blows the whole, kind of like she did the Ronin ship in Captain Marvel, spoilers. And I can't believe that 2 months ago I watched Captain Marvel and I forgot that Captain Marvel wasn't here yet because I was like, Spider-Man, Falcon, Black Panther, and of course we knew they were going to bring them back, but we didn't know how they were going to bring them back. Just like watching the prequels, you know, Anakin's going to become Vader. You don't know how that's going to happen, but you know it's going to happen. So that was an amazing, like that was one of, again, like 600 cheer-worthy, like, huge moments. And then I think somebody's going to get killed. I think Captain Marvel faces off against Thanos and is like fighting him, and that was a really fun moment where she's holding his fist and all that, and then Thanos overpowers her with the Power Stone. This is, I think, the keying up your thing. I think Thanos overpowers her with the Power Stone, and that's when she stands up to him, and then every woman in this cast basically stands behind her. If I think that's correct, is that wrong? Is that wrong? How is that wrong?
That's wrong.
How is that wrong then? What
because they were going to.
She flies through the ship.
They were protecting. They were protecting Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
All the women were protecting Spider-Man.
Yes, they need to go to the. They need
okay,
to go
so you know, I see what we did here. So she flies, destroys the ship, and then in the midst of all that is when Spider-Man gets the gauntlet. And then Spider-Man's cornered.
All the ladies
that's when Captain Marvel comes down, and then go ahead.
Yeah. So when
do a head count.
Yeah. So when Spider-Man needs to go get the gauntlet, he's like, "Oh, what about you guys?" And then all the women in Marvel Cinematic Universe,
A-Force, baby,
comes down and like, "Oh, it's okay, we got you."
Minus Black Widow, though.
Yeah. And they all stood in line, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Including Gamora,
Nebula,
the good Nebula, obviously, because bad Nebula's dead. Mantis and all the ladies. Okoye and
Potts,
Shuri and
Valkyrie.
Rescue. Yeah.
So it was like a badass ladies.
Kevin Feige, the chances of you listening to this podcast are very slim. But if you're somehow listening to this podcast, please make an A-Force movie. These women are all of these women are so awesome. And look what happened with Captain Marvel box office wise. What do you think will happen if you have Brie Larson and Tessa Thompson and Elizabeth Olsen? We forgot Scarlet. Did you see Scarlet Witch? And Zoe, like if you have this cast of women
have her part yet,
led by Captain Marvel, and you said Wasp, I think.
Yeah,
that's another $1 billion, buddy. So I'm just saying, I would love that.
Yeah, and Scarlet Witch had her showdown with Thanos.
Oh man, which was great because unfortunately, Vision is one of the people we don't get back in this.
Yeah.
So I wonder how they're gonna follow up on that because there's a WandaVision show happening soon. So. I don't know exactly how that's going to work or where that's going to be set or if it's going to be how that's going to fit in with this. But yeah, that was very cathartic. After her last time she saw Thanos, he ripped the stone out of Vision's head. And so she had some payback that needed to happen there. So yeah, you know, the A-Force, and I've read articles that are already like, and Avengers Endgame kind of hints at a new team. And it was the A-Force. I read the article. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I was thinking it might be Asgardians of the Galaxy, which we'll get to. And it ended up being an article about A-Force. And I was like, yeah, do that. You got so many of these people. I don't think Gwyneth Paltrow would come back because I think she's kind of done with it too. But there's you just named 9 women. Just pick 6 of them and there you go. Get whoever you can get on contract. Whoever you still have on contract, get them back. And I'm sure, and it seems like most of them get along. Brie Larson and Tessa Thompson are always loving on each other in social media. So let that happen. Not necessarily let them have as a thing. I guess that would be cool. I'm fine with that. But let them co-star in a movie together. So yeah, no, that was so many great moments that I feel like we're just rambling on, jerking this movie off at this point.
Yeah.
Because the last hour is just hey, you like heroes? Get all the freaking heroes you can think of, guys. And it's just 30 something characters in a scene fighting, not just standing. That we'll get to that moment in a minute. So she destroys the ship. Gamora and everybody goes over there. Everybody kicks ass. But Thanos still ends up getting the gauntlet when all is said and done.
He does.
And you're like, son of a bitch! Star-Lord wasn't even Star-Lord's point.
Tony Stark, Iron Man did ask Doctor Strange a question of
is this reality?
Is this the
14 million? Is this the one? Yeah.
And he's like, if I told you, then
it wouldn't play out the same. Yeah. And then at a certain point, Tony Stark looks over at Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange holds up one finger, indicating this is the one. So I think in that moment, Tony Stark was like, am I supposed to go and try and get the gauntlet? What the hell's going on here? How's this work exactly? And then that's when Doctor Strange is basically yeah, this is the one. This is our chance. This is your opportunity to save everyone. The only chance we're gonna get. And you'll remember that very quick. Like in a way, this is a huge movie. Like cost probably $200-300 million when all is said and done. Half of that for Robert Downey Jr. I'm joking, but like probably not as much as you'd think. But there's a lot of small little moments of just two characters connecting, and like you know what I mean. And the fact that they fit that into something like this, a movie, as I'm doing the vibration thing again, is really impressive. And like that's the word I keep using, because like the fact that they're able to pull off Infinity War, but not only Infinity War, but this as well, like the culmination of 22 stories, and have everything be a reference to everything else and everything feeding into each other and ending all of those things in a satisfying way. I know we're going way long in this recording, but we're wrapping up pretty soon. So then Tony Stark, who has made himself an own little gauntlet,
Like two of them, right?
I guess. He like crafted. When we see it, I don't think we necessarily realize that he's wearing it at that point. At least I didn't. But you see him like making
Hulk had one.
Yeah, because Hulk had one too. Yeah.
And it definitely affected Hulk.
He's got some healing to do, but that doesn't mean he won't show up again at some point. Being all better. So Tony Stark goes over there, fights Thanos, and gets the stones, right?
Yeah, because once again, Thanos was going to be able to had the gauntlet and was going to snap his fingers yet again. And he realized...
He's like, son of a bitch! It's a 3-hour movie, don't do this to us!
The stones were gone because they were on Iron Man.
And he goes, and he's like, what the... That's not what's supposed to happen. And then it cuts to Tony Stark with the stones on his gauntlet. And again, of course, predictably, the audience... Right?
Yep.
And
then he snaps his fingers.
We should say we saw this in IMAX too, so it was like the most screen that we can find in our area.
And so Iron Man snaps his fingers, and
does it start with the Black Order, the Children of Thanos, or did it start with just the random elements of his army? I think it started with just
army,
the army, the random like the Outriders and the ship and all that. And then the Children of Thanos getting dusty, and then Thanos is like, oh crap. And then it's like kind of a close-up on him, and then he starts to disintegrate. And then the audience is like, basically the last hour, everybody was out of breath by the end of it. And then, yeah, Thanos is no more, guys. And
both Thanos, 2018 and 2014.
So all Thanos, I'm assuming, from that point on, is no more Thanos. Taking a moment to pause. So then that takes the big toll, as they mentioned many times in this movie. Thor wants to wield the gauntlet because it takes, you not just a regular human can handle the strength of it. Even Thanos takes a huge toll at like damage. If you see and they established that in Infinity War when Thanos snaps his fingers. Thanos, one of the most powerful beings in the universe, he's like arm is all jacked up and
half his face.
He's all like no, well that's later. But at the end of Infinity War, he snaps his fingers and then when it comes back after he talks to, what did it cost? Everything. After that, and he comes back and Thor's like, what did you do? And he's all like, ugh, and his arm was all like charred and jacked up. Remember?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they established it already that the cost that it comes with that. With using the gauntlet to the full extreme power, and then Hulk felt that as well. So when Tony Stark does it, he knows the cost of that, but he does it anyway because it's their only chance. This is their only shot, and Doctor Strange knows that because he's seen 14,605 alternative futures, and Tony Stark sacrifices his life for half the universe, which. I saw somebody tweet, and I don't remember, I think this was, actually might have been Win Lee, tweet that it makes his story in Iron Man that much more potent and poignant when you consider that whole thing, when he's escaping the cave, the other man that's in there with him, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, the character, he's like a scientist and a family man. You remember this, sort of? Mm-hmm. Okay. So he says he actually tries to escape with him, Tony Stark does, and he's actually killed in the escape by the criminal organization that kidnapped him or whatever. So the terrorists that did that. So he says to Tony Stark, he says, whatever you do, basically says something, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically says, don't waste your life. Essentially the message being make good of the time that you have, or, make this worth something, basically. Make my sacrifice worth something. And so because that man, whose name I can't remember and I feel shitty about that, that man died in the cave, Tony Stark escaped, became Iron Man, to his ultimate destiny of saving half the universe from extinction, from Thanos. And Tony Stark, in the midst of all this, sacrifices his future with Pepper and everything.
His child.
Well, we'll get there. And gives up his life for everyone. And we knew this was going to be the end of Robert Downey Jr.'s story. But honestly, part of me kind of thought that they might still hold on to him as like director of S.H.I.E.L.D. or like for cameos or whatever. But I think this is like, if you're going to have him write him out, this is better than kind of the soft exiting where like he's like a lead role and then he's like a cameo and then he's like a supporting role, then he's like a cameo, then he's like shows up, then he's mentioned, then it's like fading out. Like if you're gonna go out with this character and this actor who basically kicked this whole franchise off 11 years ago, because if that Iron Man movie, the first Iron Man movie, didn't work, none of this shit would have happened. Like we wouldn't have had any of these movies if that hadn't resonated with people and people were like, oh my god, I love this, more of that please.
And who knew that the Iron Man movie was going to lead to all of this? I mean, I know I didn't.
Nobody
My dad
did.
tried to get me to watch this movie, and I'm
You're
like,
like,
I don't care. I watched it anyway, but I'm like, whatever.
Did you?
That was 2009.
Did you like it?
no
Did you like it a little
idea.
better when I showed it to you the second time?
Yeah, but I also knew what it already was.
I like it, but I feel like other people. I feel like I appreciate it more than I like it. Like I appreciate what it's Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, what it started with all of this. I have lots of issues with that movie itself. But that was the beginning, and essentially the end is with Tony Stark.
Well, it's also even in Avengers, the first Avengers, he once again sacrificed his life to save people.
Which is why
that was one of my points.
I could like both him and Captain America's stories were hinting at them sacrificing themselves for everyone. I mean, and I reference this a lot, but Steve Rogers jumping on the grenade when he's training in boot camp for the army. Before he even has the super soldier serum, he's like, oh my god, I have to save everybody, and he's willing to blow up for it. But both of their arcs have been pointing towards that. So I think Marvel was doing that almost purposefully. I feel like I said this on the conversation with Zach on Winter Soldier, the Winter Soldier episode. Almost so that you didn't know who was going to make it and who was not going to make it. Was it going to be Cap? Was it going to be Iron Man? Was it going to be neither of them? And I
also don't think any one of us expected it was going to be Black Widow gone first.
No,
I know I didn't.
Not necessarily. No, not really. I mean, until you got to that point, and then we were both like, "Oh, it's between Black Widow and Hawkeye." Black Widow might make more sense at this point. So it's the three actors who've been with the franchise the longest are the ones, other than Hemsworth, I guess, because Hemsworth came on about the same time as Evans.
Actually, his movie was first.
Right. Exactly.
Like a couple months or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, May 2011, and then
July
2011.
I think. Yeah.
We've had just started dating. Is that
we did. We didn't see Thor together though. We saw Captain.
We did
together.
not.
Was Captain America the first Avenger, the first movie we saw together as from these franchises?
In a movie theater, yeah.
Oh wow! Aw. So this is. So I'm glad I bought you the Funko Pop of Captain America.
So
then
this is like our whole relationship.
Sort of. That's why it was kind of important for me to see this with you the first time. So Iron Man passes away and dies with Pepper being like, "It's okay, you can rest. Blah blah blah. We'll be fine." What happens after that? Is it the Valkyrie Thor thing? What are you gonna do now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then Thor passes. He doesn't pass away. I know people were like, "Process? What do you mean? I haven't seen the movie yet. Don't do this to me, Rob." So he passes the mantle of ruler of Asgard to Valkyrie, which I would watch a Valkyrie movie where she's running new Asgard. That'd be sweet. So what are your Hemsworth is your boy. What was your thought on that? And then we'll get to the Iron Man resolution and then the...
It's just kind of funny that he wants to he ended up leaving to go hang out with the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is why they call it as Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just interesting because, like, I don't know.
And he references
that
by name.
Interesting.
As
I mean,
Guardians.
maybe the rabbit, but no.
Yeah, we talked about this. Kai has mixed feelings, and I historically listened to episode 1, The Fandom Menace, which is still my favorite episode title I've ever come up with. But listen to that, and Freddie's like, Guardians is my favorite movie of the year. And I'm like, really? It's fine, but whatever. So I have been historically mixed on the Guardians, even though I love Volume 2. So Kai is very much more mixed on the Guardians, I think.
Yeah.
But with Thor in the midst, I think you're like, it's a different
Yeah.
story. So
Because he was funny.
my hope
is
is that we'll get more Valkyrie in a supporting role in an A-Force movie or something. But my hope is that after Guardians 3, we get an As Guardians of the Galaxy movie with Thor, selected members of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then they kind of mash up the Guardians and Ragnarok worlds into its own franchise.
And Gamora is missing, by the way.
Right. So
which could be a big lead into the third
Which
Guardians.
makes a lot of people wonder, well, is Guardians 3 going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Search for Gamora? In a kind of the way that Star Trek 3 was The Search for Spock.
Because remember, she's Gamora from 2014. She doesn't know these people.
Right. Then
Doesn't care about them.
He's even like, at one point, we forgot about that moment. He's even like, Gamora, oh my God. And she like kicks him in the balls and twice. And he's like, on the first time you missed it. On the second time you got them both or whatever, which was a funny line. And then she's like, really? This guy? And then it was like, it was either this guy or a tree. Which is a great moment. So yeah, obviously Volume 2 I was really in love with. So I'm very excited about Volume 3. And curious about where they're going to go. Huh?
They never brought back the Celestials.
Did you want to see Ego show up in
That would have
2014?
been kind of cool.
I was kind of wondering if they were going to have Kurt Russell.
Or that guy, the one from Doctor Strange. I don't remember his name.
Oh, Dormammu?
Yeah.
Come to bargain?
Because I thought that was a really good theory you had.
Oh, that they were going to be part of it? Well, they are more, the Celestials are more a part of it in the Infinity Gauntlet comic.
Oh.
That's where I was coming with. So like, remember if Dormammu is going to show up and be like, I like this Dana.
I love that
Thanos.
you watch the
I'm like,
movies and then you read the comics. A
yeah.
lot of people do it.
I'll watch movies and then read the books. That's how I work. I move, but you choose your avenue. What's your priority, the book or the movie? For me, it's the movie.
Me, it's a
obviously
book.
I have a podcast, The World of Film from a Fresh Angle. So very exciting to see what they're going to do with Guardians. I have no idea where they're going next, but I'm even more excited to see what James Gunn is going to do, and I'm so glad he got rehired. I want to say that again because that's exciting, and I think also justified considering the weird situation he was in. So.
Okay, can I do the next one? Is this the next? This is the next
Iron
one?
Man's funeral first.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
then Iron Man's funeral, which is beautiful because the camera, basically that was very much a handheld, kind of like, oh, look who's here. Oh, look who's here. It's almost like Joe and Anthony Russo were like the videographers of the funeral. And they're like, look, Captain Marvel made it. And Spider-Man's here. And look, Aunt May. And William Hurt is even here. And the kid from Iron Man 3 who some people are like, who the hell is that kid? And it's
Like me?
yeah, like you. But I knew he was going to be in this because that was announced or confirmed like a year
so
ago.
Weird, like cameo. Like this kid's gonna be in it. It's like,
But some people are wondering whether that's indicating that he's going to have a bigger role in this franchise going forward. Like if he's going to build himself a suit of armor because that kid was
some
also.
people also just like paychecks.
Well, it's also that too. Plus, it's a nod to his relationship with Stark and a nice callback to Iron Man 3 and
Which was what 2014 or something.
2013. That was right after.
Oh my!
That
what?
was.
Oh my god!
That was the first movie after the Avengers. After the Avengers.
Wow.
There was a year gap between May 2012 and May
We've
2013.
been together a long time.
I know. We've been through. We got together in Phase 1, and now it's the end of Phase 3. We don't even know what Phase 4 is gonna bring us or the movies, other than Black Widow and Guardians 3. So I love that moment, and I love the reveal of Nick Fury at the end, kind of overseeing everything, and Sam Jackson gets a paycheck for like 5 seconds of non-dialogue.
Well, it also
screen time.
goes into Far From Home, where they've been showing him
Exactly.
in those trailers.
Right. So they confirmed that he's alive, and Maria Hill was there. Aunt Robin. Kids, I'm going to tell you a story about when Aunt Robin went to Tony Stark's funeral. So that was a nice tying of the bow and an acknowledgement of the significance that Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark have had in this franchise. And you get that great moment with him leaving the videos for Morgan, including the I Love You 3000 thing and all that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to cry again. So that was all really well done and very heartfelt. And I've told you already, I know that when I bring my mom, who's been on this podcast, to this movie in a few days, she's going to be like Niagara Falls, Frankie Angel, and yes, that's a Scrooge reference. Pretty much this whole time, but very much towards the end with everything Iron Man and Captain America. Go.
So then you go you follow up with Captain America, and he takes Mew Mew to go back in the past to bring back the Reality Stones.
All the stones.
To bring
the
back
Infinity
all the
Stones.
stones.
Yeah, not just one.
I think I like the Reality Stone. Maybe that's what it is. On my BuzzFeed quizzes, I always answered Reality Stone. It was the one I want. I don't know why.
You want to live in another reality.
So Bruce Banner turns it on for him to go return stones and then come back. And we have Sam and Bucky there. So Captain America leaves, and then Bruce Banner touches the button, and he's like, and Captain America doesn't come back, and he's like, oh my God.
5 seconds.
Yeah, 5 seconds. He's like,
5 seconds for us, as long as he needs for him, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh no, where did he go? What happened to him? I don't know what happened. He's like, oh, I know it. And Bruce Banner says, oh, it's timestamp. He went past his timestamp. And then Sam's like, oh my God. And then Bucky's like, hey, wait. And then you see this person sitting on a bench. And I'm at first thinking that it's the Steve Rogers before he became Captain America, before he became enhanced.
Scrawny Steve Rogers?
Yeah, like that he maybe regretted being Captain America and all the responsibility. He just wanted to go back to the way he used to be. I remember you were saying, oh no. And Sam goes over there and, oh no.
Kai's gonna cry, guys.
This was a moment for me because
Kai's really crying, guys. It's happening.
Because he is my favorite, and I wanted to have a good ending. And Rob's been torturing me.
I was
for like weeks now.
I was gonna joke proof that Kai Yaniz has a heart, because that's a reference to the Stark thing, which is in the first movie, which is in his funeral thing.
And Rob's been torturing me all the last couple of weeks, being like, "Yeah, it's gonna be epic because Captain America's gonna die. Oh, he's gonna be dead," and just trying to
Well, in my defense, he could have died.
Right, I know. I was between the two of them. So So Sam goes over to Steve, and he's old because his timestamp meant he went back in time to get married to Peggy, and they had their dance. They got married, and I guess had kids, and
had a whole life together.
He took Iron Man's advice, and he got a life, and he was like, "Oh, how was it?" He's like, "It was beautiful," and he's like, "Do you want to tell me about the girl?" Because he saw the ring, and he's like, "No, I don't." And the end of the movie, and it ends with the movie with him and Peggy dancing.
Well, he brings something for Sam, don't forget.
Right, oh, right. He brings Sam back the shield, Captain American shield, and he gives Falcon the shield.
You're welcome, world. Zach and I called that a while ago.
For me, it was the best ending that Captain America could have possibly gotten. It was what he deserved. So.
It's a little bit of the Up thing, where the greatest adventure was the life that he shared with Peggy. You know, that was really all this crazy stuff. He's fighting aliens and dealing with all this crazy stuff. Really, the only adventure he really wanted was a normal life. That's what he wanted from the beginning of the franchise. When we met him, he fell in love with Peggy, and he never got to pursue that because he got caught up in his avenging, as Linda Cardellini called it at one point. So he got to live that. And then the last shot is...
He had the best of both worlds. He got to be Captain America, and he got to be with Peggy.
Right.
And it's perfect.
It's a good ending for his story.
It was.
Which some people theorize that might happen, but it was still... that makes it no less sweeter that ended up being the way that it ended up going for Cap. And them both dying and sacrificing themselves would have been repetitive. So Iron Man sacrificing himself for half the universe made his life worth it. And Captain America, who already sacrificed his entire existence to fighting the forces of evil and all that, finally getting his reward by getting to settle down and live his life and have a family and be with the woman that he's loved and pined for decades. I guess he was frozen for a lot of that time too. But yeah, it was a good ending. And in a way, part of me is like, well, you never know. They could bring one of these back with an alternative reality or timeline or whatever. But I kind of hope they don't mess with it, because it was this. You're not going to get a better ending for those two characters than this.
No.
You know, and there's a lot as that all the whole last hour of the movie established. There's so many of these heroes that can keep this thing alive. I wonder in what context we're going to see Anthony Mackie play Captain America. Are we going to see that in some team-up movie? Are they gonna do a new Avengers movie with him? Because there's a comic book run called The New Avengers with maybe him leading it with Black Panther and Captain Marvel and whatever. Like, how's that going to work? I wonder. To close the book on this movie, and then we'll do a brief, what do we want to see next for this franchise before we end it, 'cause this is a long conversation. This is like almost a Matrix-length conversation, but I think we were
actually was 3 hours.
I think we were fooling ourselves and thinking we were going to get this conversation done in roughly an hour, because there's so much to talk about and cry about and get emotional about, because, God, guys, this movie's so good. I'm so excited to go see it again, as I've said a few times, but any other thoughts on this movie? It's pretty much everything you could have hoped for from this movie, from this story at this point. Where if this is a conclusion for the main 6 heroes, Hulk has finally come to peace with himself and, becomes Smart Hulk, I guess. Hawkeye gets his family back and gets to settle down in his way. Black Widow sacrifices herself. Iron Man sacrifices himself. Thor gets to finally pursue his own path, not feeling like he's bound by the path of his father or his people or anything. And Captain America finally gets that dance with Peggy that they've been hinting at. Literally every movie that Captain America appears in, they reference Peggy Carter and the lost love that he never got to pursue. That's a pretty good ending for these 6 characters. If we never see any of these 6 characters again, that's just about as perfect a resolution to this Thanos story or to each of those 6 individual journeys that I think we can hope for.
I know. It was. Like, they really ended it nicely.
It's pretty impressive. It's pretty reassuring if this movie becomes the highest grossing movie of all time, considering the broad appeal of superheroes and the epic adventure and sci-fi and all the crazy stuff that happened in this movie, but also the emotional stakes and how rewarding it is to longtime fans and devotees of this kind of thing. I'm kind of fine with this being, even though I love Star Wars and I like Force Awakens being the highest grossing North American movie, of course not adjusted for inflation. I'm kind of fine with this being that too, because it does provide that sense of closure in some senses for those characters. Anything? What do you want to see? Now we know what's coming next. Black Widow, prequel, obviously. Guardians 3, The Eternals, Doctor Strange, Black Panther sequel, Spider-Man Far From Home in a few months.
This is the Asian
and Shang-Chi. I forgot about that. Thank you. What do you want after this movie? What do you want to see happen for, I guess, any of these characters? Go.
I'm not gonna like my answer.
You
I don't
care?
know. I'm still not totally bought into the remaining.
Oh, you're not bought into Spider-Man?
No,
You're not bought into Captain
he's
Marvel?
fine, but don't forget,
You're-
there's been 2 other Spider-Mans.
You're not bought into Captain
3
Marvel?
really. Yeah, she's cool. I don't love these characters yet.
I kind of think that part of why you feel that way is because you feel like you've only just been really introduced to these characters. You've only just recently met Captain Marvel and Black Panther. I feel like if either of those, obviously Doctor Strange, honestly, even any of them, all of them only have 1 movie out. I felt a little bit like that with Captain America until Winter Soldier. Like, the sequels are what, for me, cemented. Okay, now, I've said this many times on this podcast, including the pre-Endgame episode that I just recently did. The sequels in these superhero movies are the ones that really cement what it's like to live in that world with that character. The origin story, the first one is usually like, who is this person? And where did they get this? What's their situation? And then you spend a whole movie just establishing their situation. And I feel like if you had seen Captain Marvel 2 or Black Panther 2 or Doctor Strange 2, maybe you would feel a little bit differently.
It's possible. Yeah.
So maybe Phase 4 will be... I don't think we're going to get another team up like an Avengers movie for a while. Like, at least for Phase 4, I feel like it's going to be Black Widow, Guardians 3, The Eternals, Shang-Chi, probably Captain Marvel 2, probably Black Panther 2, maybe Doctor Strange 2. Oh, no, Doctor Strange 2, I think.
I'm actually surprised we're having another Spider-Man when Doctor Strange was now 2016.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I hope to see... the word is that they're not doing a lot of these team-ups anymore going forward because you're never going to get a story as big in scope as this one. Probably ever. Or at least for a long, long time. So I think they're going to scale it back and not have another team-up movie for a nice long while. And I think that they've earned that. They've done a lot of these crossover team-up things, and this being obviously the biggest in terms of stakes and cast and according to Wikipedia. I just saw it. It sounded like the estimated budget's like 350 to 400 million for this movie, which is probably making this weekend. So it'll do just fine. But how do you feel about them taking a break from team ups and just doing solo stuff for a little while before bringing together another team?
I mean, I guess it's okay, but I do get excited about the team ups.
Yeah, well,
the Avengers movies are some of the best ones they've come up with.
Not the second one.
Well, even Civil War, which was supposed to be a Captain
movie.
America movie, that was an Avengers movie.
Kind of was.
Let's
Yeah.
get real.
Pretty much.
Like that scene on the tarmac.
So I think it makes sense for them to pump the brakes after this huge 2-part epic. Develop their newer lead characters, Spider-Man, which I wrote an article for Screen Rant a million years ago, which are probably going to be the new heads of the MCU are probably going to be Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, and Black Panther. Develop them a little bit more and solidify their place and introduce a few new elements like Shang-Chi, like the Eternals, and wait a little before they reform a new team, before they bring Fantastic Four and X-Men into it, because then it's really going to be convoluted again. So, but I think within the next probably 5 years we'll get an Avengers versus X-Men movie.
Oh wow!
Which is
That'd
a comic.
Be fun.
Which is a comic.
Of course it is.
And there's an AVX comic.
That would be fun.
So I'm
and
sure
of course
we'll get that at
Deadpool
some
in
point.
there too.
Well, Deadpool, the only part of the X-Men universe that they're supposedly not rebooting whatsoever. Like Dark Phoenix, which is coming out in a couple months, and everybody's like, this is going to be a real mess. I'm still looking forward to seeing it. It probably will be a real mess, but I'm still kind of excited to see it because I love the X-Men movies. And New Mutants, who knows what's ever going to happen with that, if we'll even see that.
That was
ever.
a trailer like a year ago.
Like 2 years ago, 2017, that was a trailer. Movie still hasn't come out. Keeps getting pushed.
With Sophie Turner's buddy, right?
Maisie Williams, yeah. And Anya Taylor-Joy from Glass and Split and The Witch. So this movie's been on like perpetual hold. That's going to be the end of the X-Men franchise. So they're going to reboot them at some point, other than Deadpool. And I'm sure Ryan Reynolds will get a lot of good material out of it. Like, hey, you look totally different than the last time we met. That kind of thing going forward. So it's an interesting crossroads that the MCU finds itself in right now, and that we're closing out this big era and trying to create a new one, I guess, from the remaining pieces.
Yeah.
We'll see
It's
what
fun.
happens. We'll see what happens.
Probably nothing else this year though, except
Spider-Man. No, not anymore. But they haven't announced anything, so we'll see. I'm assuming at San Diego Comic-Con
Next
in
year.
July. No, this year.
Oh,
in
this
July,
year? Oh.
Right, which is after Spider-Man. A few weeks after Spider-Man, I think they'll be like, hey, guess what? Kevin Feige will show up at SDCC and be like, pull out his giant MCU dick and throw it on the table and be like, here's the next 5 years of your lives, bitches.
we'll be there.
Of course we'll be there. I mean, but listen, here's the thing. You know, we talk all the time about like, oh, these big franchises and this Disney owns so much of things, and I'm like, but when the storytelling, when it works this well, when it's this good, what am I gonna do? Not support it? I mean, don't make shitty movies, Disney, and then I won't have to watch them. I don't know.
But how do you know it's bad until you
That's
see
true. But I'm gonna see it a second time already. And I honestly, I'll probably try and see it one more time.
Because
before it's
even
gone.
though Dark Phoenix possibly might be bad, you're gonna see it anyway.
But that wasn't a Disney movie until recently.
You saw Venom.
I did.
In
That's
fact, aren't
Sony.
you gonna buy it?
Yeah, because I'm a completist. I need to do a whole bonus
Right.
episode about why I buy. I have the, as I like to point out to mention all the time to make fun of myself, I own the Squeakquel. So of course I'm gonna get Venom and a lot of these other movies that are not that great. Just because I have to. I have Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I found for like $4 at a Walgreens a few years ago, if you remember, on DVD. But
do.
I have a very low bar for when I'm part of a franchise.
Unless it's Batman and Robin, and then don't even come in this house.
That's true. That's where I draw the line partially because I'm obsessed with trilogies, and I think Batman Forever is a decent trilogy closer to the other two, where he like brings Robin in and then it ends before it gets really annoying. And I like that the fact that the MCU has that line in the sand. Yeah, Iron Man, you get 3 movies, then you'll be in other people's movies, then we kill you. Captain America, you're in 3 movies, then you'll be in other people's movies, and then that's it. You dead. You old now. You're like 95 years old. You're gonna pass away while Anthony Mackie like scatters your ashes into the lake while he picks up your shield and hangs out. So I'm hoping that's why I'm really hoping for an Asgardians of the Galaxy or some version of that, and not a Thor 4. which has apparently some and then Tessa Thompson, I think, or whatever, said Thor, another Thor, whatever that means. I don't think it's Thor 4. I think it's a movie with Thor in a prominent role, probably involving some of the other cosmic people. But, you know, at this point, do a whatever cosmic thing you can do. Bring in Howard the Duck, and it's all good. I'm down for it. So I think we both recommend Endgame. We talked so long about it. Very excited to hear what everybody thinks. Reach out to me on Twitter at Crooked Table. Kai, any closing thoughts? She's about to fall asleep, Kai. She's either going to cry or fall asleep. I can't tell. Both.
I'm still shook.
You're still shook?
Still shook. I cried, guys.
On
air.
The podcast.
On the
podcast.
You got me. But yeah, you can reach me at the Volkey LLC on Twitter. You can also find my videos on bebold-bebrave.com.
Yeah, definitely support Kai. Obviously, as her husband, I'm legally bound to say that you have to do that. So hopefully this was entertaining, long conversation about Endgame and kind of our thoughts running through the whole movie and the plot and everything. Love to hear what you guys all think. I'm sure it's going to make $1 bazillion, and we'll see what happens with the MCU going forward with Spider-Man in July and then beyond. So, anything to say?
Roll credits.
Nice call back, Kai. Endgame, bringing it full circle. If you're interested in joining me on the show to chat about one of your favorite films, head on over to crookedtable.com/guest. Or you can consider supporting the show at patreon.com/crookedtable. Of course, you can always find more podcasts, reviews, videos, and other movie-related goodies over at crookedtable.com. Until next time, this has been the Crooked Table Podcast, and I've been Rob.
This has been a production of crookedtable.com. All rights reserved.
CR double L K E D.